Fifth grade teachers?
I have.
I have
Really?
100 per grade level.
Teachers?
Teachers.
Yeah.
For the Greenfield, honey.
We're pretty good at that.
I believe I counted elementary.
Okay, we're on.
We're on.
We have 41 districts that I'm responsible to, all the way from 150 students to close to 10,000. So I have a lot of teachers to be responsible.
Retirement's doing, you know.
Should
I
be any
wish I
volunteers?
retired, you know. They think it can be done with the Department of One.
Insane.
That is insane.
You can't spend 5 minutes in any place. You can't spend 5 minutes anywhere. If you have to spend the same 5 minutes, you
You're
can do it.
getting,
It's impossible. All right, can you wiggle that up there? I guess. It's just computer. Should have left it there. If it's online, I can say that, because he knows I really said it. But we're literally,
Well, he might have it locked because it's not responding.
all right, then we'll go ahead and just talk about it, and we'll have to make.
I've got notes that.
Maybe notes we can add to.
Where are we?
And we should be on F,
Strand
Strand
5,
2,
two,
F, first grade.
A.
Okay, we're starting there. Oh, come on, start on that.
And the concept is?
Yeah, just observe, right? This is the first
This is
grade.
back to climate as a description of average weather
Basically,
conditions
this is
and given,
what they do every day, right? This
or transfer of energy and matter through Earth's systems.
And basically what they're doing in first grade is observing patterns of weather,
Well, observing,
observing weather.
and hopefully they think about patterns, but this doesn't say anything about, A doesn't say patterns, A just says observe.
It just says observe, measure, record
Record.
weather data throughout the year.
Throughout the year.
I definitely
That's
think-
what we do.
We could
Elizabeth, don't your first grade teacher probably at the end of the month really have kids look at, so indoors, look at the graph?
Yeah.
So they represent the data?
We graph constantly.
Because that's a great connection in
Yes.
mathematics.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes, ma'am.
that collecting data.
I mean, because with that morning meeting where we talk about,
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, we
there's
do that
graphing
too.
all over that.
Yeah, we do.
Well, you know, and it kind of looks like that sort of thought process is going to be either in C or D, kind of both in C and D there. So A is just about observe, right?
B is compare. Temperature to different
Yeah, like
locations.
different parts of the
So
school.
you're gonna look at your data and see what.
Right.
And we said we wanted to put contrast,
Okay,
right?
On
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
that's fine.
Somebody make a note.
On that one, yes.
Oh, you're leaving A as is.
I think so. Looks okay to me, right?
Everywhere it comes.
Compare and contrast.
Do
would
we
be-
want to add in there about, so you don't think we need to put notice patterns over time?
No, that's D.
If
Oh, here we go.
Keep on down. Compare the weather, on C then,
Different times.
compare the weather,
And that's, now maybe that could be compare and contrast also. I think it makes sense to see.
well, yeah, I would think that makes, when you have got verses, that's contrast.
Okay. Otherwise, that's fine. Especially considering D is where they talk about
Identify
what to
patterns.
do with it.
I just had to
These
scroll
are
down
patterns
one.
indicating relationships between observable weather data and weather phenomena.
And you want to add contrast to C as well,
And
correct?
B and C.
And B and C, yes.
Yeah, I love D.
Is everybody good with that first grade comment?
We want to take a look at, next gen.
It's pretty much, I have here, in kindergarten, weather and climate. People, weather is a combination of sunlight, wind, snow, or rain, temperature in a particular region at a particular time. People measure these conditions to describe and record the weather and to notice patterns over time.
And by the way, where are you at in GSS?
I'm in kindergarten,
Oh.
KESS2. First grade, in first grade, they don't touch on weather that I saw before, other than the seasons.
So we were good with all of first grade?
When we change, we just add some contrast to both of them.
To B and C.
Is I think, is it
The only thing I can, but where, okay, so observe and describe daily water precipitation, and then where it says wind there, maybe just say wind speed. Since that's what they seem to be talking about. Wind is more vague, wind speed is more specific.
Right, and then you could take out the IE.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're gonna, it's not quantitative, it's qualitative.
So they're just saying, is it windy or is it not?
So I don't know that we wanna put wind speed, because wind speed to me lends itself to quantitative and not qualitative. I can see these poor little kindergarten teachers out there trying to calculate wind speed.
That's right, and see which way how strong the flag is blowing.
That's
Or the
true.
little pinwheel. We used flags in second grade.
Because light breezes to strong,
The
does it
air-
blow?
It would be airspeed, and that's what causes, I mean, that's airspeed. So it doesn't really,
I think you have to bring development, they can have a number. Right, I agree totally. We don't need it.
Because speed and math, I mean,
But then maybe the wind, lightning, trumping, any direction.
so you're leaving A as is?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a vote?
Yeah.
Great.
Observe and describe the general weather conditions that occur in each season.
Eric, when you're ready, we'll
we're gonna have to do things.
they're minor little things.
No, we tried, it was locked out. They're not something to treat. They're ready to already use it,
You might as
but
well.
I figured you had something to talk to or something, so we were.
Be comfortable.
Yes, sir.
For kindergarten, it's fine.
Kindergarten B, right? Just leave as is.
I think so. That's my vote. Oh, 3A. It's
Oh,
not.
it's that's what we need. So we're on to 5, strand 5. 3, human activities is dependent upon the effects of Earth's resources and systems. 5A says Earth's materials are limited natural resources affected by human activity. And in the 5th grade, scope sequence, this is on the water cycle. Explain how major bodies of water are important natural resources for human activity. This is food, recreation. Should be a comment.
Oh, yeah, food,
Yes,
yeah,
it should.
yeah.
Food recreation,
Okay, I've seen that on TV.
that could get interesting.
Food, recreation, habitat, irrigation, salt.
No,
Yeah,
no,
you're
no
grade five.
transportation.
You're grade
No
five.
problem. Solid transportation, maybe.
Gotta go over.
Maybe that's what they need.
No, solvent, like dissolving,
Yeah, but it doesn't.
don't we get solvent? Solute, solvent, they dissolve things.
That doesn't,
That's what I'm saying, it doesn't fit. And that's maybe, that's what I'm saying, maybe solid transportation, because
Well, they do
Water
dissolve,
is
things. They are solvents.
yes, but
Something about the way that is.
Yeah, I don't like
about
it.
strand farming.
Is that trying, I mean, I don't know.
5.
Do you remember when they did this? Is that talking like,
So I think we're down, yeah, we're down.
Yeah.
that'd be like how caves are, you know, the water goes through the cave?
Yeah,
Or A on 5.
Yeah.
Something's.
it definitely needs to be in the glossary. There,
Yeah,
because
I'm
the
trying to figure out
non-science color doesn't.
water cycle. I'm gonna
in
go
our
with
cars,
water.
in our
Yeah,
cars,
water
so
gets through water.
potassium water does act as a solvent to
Right, I
dissolve the
understand.
limestone,
Sure,
to make caves
It
and
makes
all
sense.
that.
I mean,
it does.
So,
Now, this is explained.
yeah.
But I didn't do that.
Okay, third rail. I like people looking third rail.
What are you adding to the third grade?
It does not
It
exist.
shall not be touched.
Solvent needs to be in the glossary.
Well, I think
Is there another way to say that,
Well,
like,
that's what I mean, could we make
K
it clearer?
formation? Could we say K formation? Could we say?
So
It's
it's
like
down,
you're talking
it's down
about
to
the
the
body
rest
of
down
water.
here.
Yeah, so.
Describing the human needs and activities.
How a body of water acts as a solvent. Isn't that what we're?
But it says explain to me your question.
But it's,
Well, humans wouldn't use it as a solvent.
The human activity is what is confusing me with the word solvent. But I'm simple-minded when it comes to science, so.
That's why.
Here's what I'm gonna tell you, sometimes when humans want to dump things, they use copious amounts of water in which to dump them.
True.
So, yes, we have in the past used large bodies of water
This is true.
to dump,
To dilute.
all use
To
and
dilute.
dilute and to get rid
Dispose
of
of
or
bad
disperse
things.
waste.
I was gonna say, we have a lot of that around here.
Right.
In
So-
mine.
If we throw it in the river, you can't see it, it just comes on down to you.
Right.
Ours is through the
We're
mine.
gonna thank you for that too.
So we do
Lead
use it as a
smelters.
solvent.
Yeah,
right.
yes.
We do.
With, third rail needs to explain it though.
Yes. Give examples of how we use it as a solvent, how's that?
That's good, yeah. And that's your, like you saw it inside.
E.g.
Living on the
Give
and
examples
resource
in
plan.
the third
It's the
column.
and resource plan. That's
Yeah,
what
right.
Each one of you next time has to come back with 24 examples for column 3.
There you go.
I'm kidding.
I
Yeah, she's
quit.
getting it.
What's the story, they, there is a story about they're cleaning out the river
Like,
Dane.
that was wrong.
They're cleaning out the river Dane.
Yeah.
You gotta make them something in return.
Yeah.
Jeans day or something.
No, you'll take more than that.
I'm starting with an anti-tree.
That's true.
A science teacher at Drury takes some freshmen to the dump every year, and they analyze, the kids pick the square footage to analyze, and always it has come up that at least 80% could have been recycled.
Wow.
Wow.
You know what I'm gonna tell you? That our landfills are our next mining operations. I predict that before we're done, we will be mining landfills. And we
Never
have to
thought of
job
that.
really
We already get natural gas from some of them.
Well, we already harvest methane off
Yeah.
our
Yes,
too.
we do.
Yeah.
To do electricity, they put it on the grid. But they'll be mining it for aluminum, tin, all that. Because if we won't have it, the nature's to go to the landfills to get it.
Because that's where it was still built from.
Yes.
What are you doing with A?
I think just
On fifth grade?
putting a comma in it.
I know, I'm just a comma,
The
that's all I'm
comma
got.
in the third
And
column
then
note.
are we adding solvents to the
Something.
glossary?
Yes.
And then we are putting
Examples.
examples in third column.
Yes, ma'am.
So are you good with that, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Fourth grade.
No,
No, we got B, baby.
You
I
got me.
already skipped that.
Oh.
This is not important. No, this is where we're at. Sorry.
Oh, there's a need for a comma there again.
Oh, yeah, irrigation,
I've never heard that term, so I was thinking there needs to be a comma there.
yeah, irrigation.
Even if I limited.
Even in your
Oh, no, that's irrigation damming because you've been in,
Of rivers, though.
Yeah.
they do little waterways, that's why you know, take away water rights, people out in Colorado, and
Yeah.
they're very big on the fact they give up the irrigation ditches and only allow select farmers to get water.
I guess, you know, maybe not have waste management right next to sources of drinking water.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know, it's okay.
Let's see what they say. This is where next gen kind of puts this all in the earth and human activity, like it's.
Do they deal with aquifers at all? And the impact of irrigation on the aquifer?
I don't think they go to to underground.
It just
To the high
says
school.
human activities in agriculture, industry, and everyday life
That's it.
have had major effects on the land, vegetation, streams, ocean, air, and even outer space.
Oh, they didn't say that it looks like.
The word aquifer does not appear in NGSS.
Okay.
It should in Missouri. It is a huge thing. We're
It's a
doing.
huge thing in Missouri.
And what were you reading from? What-
I was on,
It should be in
45.
North.
We have irrigations for everywhere, so it's an impact.
My pages are,
I'm gonna label that as an Andy issue.
Bob's convinced to make you a little more, less linear. That's the whole thing. He's not saying.
Is there anything that you don't have?
She'll come back and take it around, that's all the tips to make you less linear.
I mean, that's all it says, period.
Right, I screwed up.
She'll be random.
Right,
I'll
this
done
one.
with it.
Change
In which one, B?
it. MB.
We just put the comma between irrigation and
Yeah.
dam.
The only thing it did say was, all of Earth's available water is, nearly all of Earth's available water is in the ocean. Most fresh water is in glaciers or underground. Only a tiny fraction is in streams, lakes, wetlands, and the atmosphere. That's where they address asking about, say, underground.
I think we're good with B.
So C.
C is another place for engineering.
Those solutions.
It's there right now, just about it. Just, you can sort of propose engineering solutions to problems.
What's the fancy way we've been saying that, though? It's not proposed engineering. What do we use on those other ones?
Something about a constructive scientific argument.
It wasn't the argument part.
Suggest?
No, it wasn't suggest.
Design.
Design.
Design, that's it.
Design a scientific model.
No, design.
A solution.
Yeah, I think
That's right.
that takes care of
Yeah.
design a solution.
What would that look like?
Probably related to water quality.
Can we say design a solution / solutions?
I don't want to say solutions.
Yeah.
But Jan said, what does that look like? I mean, when you say design,
So to me, what that means is if the problem is that the cows are going to the stream and relieving themselves in water, that's a problem with water quality. So design how you're going to get water to the cows without making them go to the creek side. So it's going to be specific problems that you come up with in a region, and then the kids would have to choose one and figure out how to
And
do
you
that.
bring up a good point, because C mentions specifically human activity.
That's right.
Should we change it to,
Honestly, most of the problems with water
Number A
quality.
is
Leaving
the cattle is-
and there are others, so
Right.
there are a few others, so should we take out just the human component and?
Oh, and that one.
Right, because you, yeah,
Human though. A.
I'm talking about C.
yeah, we're talking
No, I'm
about.
talking about A, but B, the strand we're in,
Okay,
it's, let's do with human.
It's
Oh,
really
gotcha,
specific
gotcha,
with
gotcha. Okay,
to keep it fluid.
My bad, yeah.
Oh, and I see what you're
How would
saying.
it, how would it look in the city? How
But
would
see,
it look in
even,
St. Louis?
even the cattle is a human issue, because the cattle, the people put the cattle there.
You would definitely the pollution effect.
Stream
So
water,
the factory is
water runoff.
spewing their waste into the Mississippi River. What would be an alternative solution to them doing that, that would
Just as
affect
long as
water
we address the idea of rural and.
Oh,
Yeah,
stormwater runoff.
That'd be a
Stormwater
huge.
runoff, exactly. That's my only
That's why we
question,
just
is
put
are we
solution.
addressing
In your area, you can
urban
address your own
and
area,
rural?
Yeah,
but it's still covered the same ground.
It's gonna be different in both areas.
it will. And that's why I think the teacher would almost need to list what the predominant, I mean, honestly, it would be ideal if they could get a news article about something that just happened. Do we need a third copy?
Well, I think,
Activity or
I think-
suggestions?
I think maybe we should at least say the word engineering, and maybe in the third column, just because I think that if the teachers are thinking, engineering is too hard and I don't do it. No, yeah, you do it right now.
You're doing it right now.
This is the
Right.
place to put it. So
And that's
remind
something
them
that-
this is engineering.
You know, next gen, every column has, or every page has science and engineering
Absolutely.
practice.
Right, so, I don't know, do you want, should the word engineering appear here, or should it be a third
Is
column?
it in there, does it list it in the standard? Like when you said next gen has it listed on every page?
No, it's its own column.
Right, so there's a set of engineering practices, but it
but it's
doesn't
not in
specifically say
not
engineering
in
in the
there.
standard.
Not in the core idea.
Yeah, so I think it's a third column thing.
Yes.
Why?
Except
Why do I
on the
think that?
specific one that is for engineering design. But that's-
Well, I think, see, I guess with next gen, one criticism has been that they're saying, okay, here's your standard, now here's the way you need to do it too. You know what I mean? Like, people are saying, well, why are you necessarily tying this process with this standard?
Right.
And so, you know, that's our opportunity to not follow next gen, and I think be on safe ground. We don't necessarily have to say this process goes with this standard.
But we are
And we can
saying that.
suggest, in this case, that this is,
I think I should add down at the bottom of that, urban and rural. I mean, you think.
I think if you, I'm just saying, if you give examples of engineering, the third column, that you would address rural and urban. Because the urban needs really to understand the rural, and the rural need to really understand the urban.
Right, and it's easy with technology to take them to both of those.
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
that's right, yeah. So you're making a note for the third column is
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
good idea.
rural
Good
and
point.
urban.
So the fifth thing is the fourth grade.
Show, Christmas vacation video of these,
Definitely ways for the RV.
Identify the ways humans affect the erosion and deposition.
Changed my mind. When you said stormwater, that's changed my mind.
Didn't we already?
Well, now it's human.
Just like humans do, clearing land, planting vegetation, paving,
This has all been about.
land construction,
Yeah.
and buildings.
It's just before we were talking about it in a more broad context.
This is strictly human
Yeah.
interaction. Is there anything else on that? Do you want to
I just did.
sort of identify the ways? to-
Well, then next is proposed ways to solve some
Oh.
problems.
Well, there should be a comma after paving, I guess. Paving, comma, land construction.
I guess on A we could
Oh,
say.
paving land. Paving land.
No, you're right, it needs a bit of comment.
But was it after paving land?
No, except for.
Paving land, I think, comma, construction.
Do you want something besides proposed ways to solve? Do you want them to do more than just? Although we changed that.
So it should be paving land, comma.
Yes, paving land, comma, I think that's right.
I like design better than proposed.
Because
That's-
proposed,
Yeah.
they can just say, well, here's what you could do.
And design is more like a system, like you are creating this.
I agree.
Design ways to solve simple environmental problems.
How about design potential ways? Is that- Just sort of a-
Design.
Change to.
Yeah, the design potential ways.
So you left A alone, except for the comma.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
You got concerns? Comments?
Change that.
I guess in daily life, you don't need a daily.
We can change B, but it was just proposed way, right? I just read it, yeah, it says design in our daily life.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah,
Did you see that, Eric, on fourth grade daily, change that from proposed to design?
oh,
Yeah, A. And then on second A,
Observe and describe ways humans use earth's materials. Observe and describe. Any problem with that?
not at second grade.
And then on A, go back to water and weather. Let's go to sequence on it. It says first grade. A, first grade. Water and weather. Observe and describe ways water, both as a solid and a liquid, is used in everyday activities at different times of the year.
Is that first grade, or do we do that?
We do it at first grade, because I don't know how it's gonna affect the scope of sequence.
Yeah. There's a reason that it
Why
says-
it's not learning?
Oh, you think it's already in there?
Or is- It seems redundant, but maybe it's not.
I agree with you, I think it sounds familiar, but I'm not sure.
It's interesting. It's,
Describe daily weather. Describe the general weather conditions during the seasons.
This is specifically just water.
Specifically human and specifically water.
Okay, I'm good. Sometimes I feel like we're trying the same thing.
I thought these overlap somehow. There's gotta be a way we can clean up this overlap,
I hope so.
because there's multiple standards saying almost the same thing.
Almost the same thing.
Yeah.
This slightly.
Yeah, there's gotta be a way we can streamline this, but we're not there yet, keep going.
So
Yeah.
keep going.
We're going, we're
that's
going.
another day.
That's a post-it note.
We're on the sixth.
Strand six.
Strand six.
Oh my gosh.
Making it happen, people. Okay, strand six is composition and construction of the universe. This would be simple, okay, everyone. And the motions of the objects within it. This is a nice tiny little subject. A is the Earth, Sun, and Moon are part of a larger system that includes other planets and smaller celestial bodies. Fifth grade, scope sequence is solar system. This man, 5A. A. Observe and identify the Earth is one of several planets within a solar system that orbits the sun.
Say it.
I got an idea of how to reduce it.
For a first one, observe the night sky with naked eye.
telescope or through simulation. Ken Landis is nice. We can't be there. Can't personally be there.
Physically, we won't be there.
Yeah, so what?
We can if they want to do it.
I guess you can't make this.
Wait, what is yours? You threw me with observe the night sky.
Observe the night sky with naked eye, telescope, or through simulation. The simulation would
Which standard are you on?
I'm basically combining three and making it two. Same
How?
with everybody else.
Because it says C, identify the planets look like stars that appear to move across the sky. Which that would have to be at night, you can't see them.
I love the look of people in the face.
I know, because I'm like, in A, we're gonna say that the Earth is a part of the solar system that orbits the sun. In B, the moon goes around the Earth. And in C, the planets look like stars.
Okay.
How are you gonna combine those?
Well, do you want me to
That's what I'm
read?
trying to explain.
Next generation,
Okay, can I read this?
pretty please.
Disciplinary core idea. Okay, first, oh wait, I don't know which part you want me to read, but the first thing up here, which I don't know what we're calling this,
Yeah, let's call it a performance standard.
support an argument that differences in the apparent brightness of the sun compared to other stars is due to their relative distance to storm, represent data and graphical displays to reveal patterns of daily changes in length and direction of shadows, day and night, seasonal appearance of some stars. Then in the core ideas, it says, the universe and its stars, the sun is a star that appears larger and brighter than other stars because it is closer. The stars range greatly in their distance from Earth. B, Earth and the solar system. The orbits of Earth around the sun and of the moon around the Earth, together with the rotation of Earth about an axis between its north and south poles, cause observable patterns. These include day and night, daily changes in the length and direction of shadows, and different positions of sun, moon, and stars at different times of day, month, and year. They don't even mention other planets.
Well, they said the solar, read that last, like, two
So they
sentences.
said it's part of a larger system.
These include day and night, daily changes in the length and direction of shadows, different positions of the sun, moon, and stars at different times of the day, month, and year.
Okay, so listen to this.
They say solar system.
They
Relate-
say solar system, but then it doesn't mention anything else in it.
Well,
So listen to this. Relate the apparent motion of the sun, moon, and stars in the sky to the rotation of the earth. That's the final glee in the scope and sequence for fifth grade of this.
So this is
That's
just
what I'm
introduction.
saying. Can we make, they just kind of lump that all into one thing? But they don't,
So you remember when we talked about what this was gonna look like after we're done going through all of this? Really what Next Gen has done is taken the top one. So they've gone, like, if we look at our little data chart here, they took the last one
and
in
made
the
it
column, made it the performance standard, added the engineering piece to it, and the processing piece to it,
and
and that's all they left. And then all this other stuff, they put in the description of disciplinary core ideas.
Yes.
That's basically
but what I'm
how
getting
it's
at is they
organized.
mention the word solar system here, but they
But
don't,
are you just looking at fifth grade, or?
yeah.
Okay.
So the problem is, this is fifth grade, and this almost reads exactly the way that one
What's
reads,
the source?
doesn't it?
In this, it says identify their planets look like stars. Well, it's not saying naming your planets and stuff, it's that they look like stars that appear to move
Right.
across the sky.
So the question is, we're not there yet.
Okay.
No, we're not there yet with the,
We haven't gone through the scope to get to the point that that next generation is. Right.
We're not,
Right?
I agree.
We're like back here partway through to
Okay.
progression, and NGSS is here at the end,
All right.
I think.
I agree with
So, where does that leave us now?
Well, what I was thinking for the second one would be develop,
The second one, which one are you talking about specifically?
like I said, I was thinking of taking the three and combining it to two.
Okay.
So the first one would be about observing, and the second one would be develop a conceptual model of the motions of Earth, Moon, and planets in the solar system.
And I would be fine with that if you did it to this one on the last strand, which is further along in our glees than where we are right now. I don't think we can develop a model till we get to the end.
Different, you're talking about the moon orbiting the Earth. And you're talking about the Earth orbiting the solar system.
And planets orbiting the sun.
And then, so you're, by condensing it, I think you're gonna lose the moon, because the moon is very, very difficult to actually understand anyway.
Well,
I think we're kind of back to where we talked about earlier, keeping the,
Keeping separate things.
separate things,
That's what I'm
because they need to be taught to mastery before you start combining them, because that really gets confusing at a younger age.
Because if the teacher reads what you're proposing, they're gonna bust it into these three standards.
Yes.
So if the teacher has to bust it into these three standards
Just
to
leave
get the point across,
Okay.
there's no reason to combine it.
And that, at fourth grade, is a hard concept still yet.
Yes.
And I know it's in, but I remember as a fourth grade teacher, is what I'm
Right.
saying. I remember setting that stage.
they never moved it out of third grade.
Yes, hallelujah.
And then second, we trace our shadow and go out of different.
Yes,
places.
exactly. Exactly.
So I'm in favor of leaving
And I think observe and identify is enough,
I do
because
too.
for fifth grade, this is introduction.
Yes. It's the beginning of the foundation.
Right.
Third
describes the sun as a star, and it's the light energy for our solar system.
And it does identify the moon.
And the moon reflects light, it doesn't give off.
But they don't have to name the planets.
Mm-mm.
Oh, God. Where are they? Where are you?
Although I can tell
Not
you,
in order either.
no,
I'm gonna take it away.
we still teach all the planets at third grade, though.
But I don't know that we need to.
I don't know that we need to, I agree with you, but I'm just saying, if I walk up and down the hallway, I'm seeing it happen. I'm not saying whether
I
it's
was
right or wrong.
just, you don't have to memorize factoids like that.
Huh?
I said I would love to suggest that they don't need to memorize factoids.
Oh, guess what? I suggest it all the time. They don't listen.
Well,
Just out of curiosity, why,
in the, again,
just to hear your side, why should they not memorize?
because you can look it up.
You can Google it.
You can Google it.
Why memorize it?
Why memorize it?
Why memorize it? Because you
Well,
don't, you
but-
can't Google when you're sitting there in conversation.
Why not? I do it all the time.
Remember what you guys said was an educated person that you sent out here.
I'm educated and I can't tell you the planets in order. I would consider myself an educated person,
And I
and the
can
order
just
of
because
planets
I'm-
is not one of
I'm
those things.
But is that what you think that
I
high
can
school?
send
I
you
think
the
you-
I know lots
you
of
still need
people's
to really know.
I was saying, I think it's for a trivia game, come in. That's just,
Whether they do or not doesn't bother me either way.
I know, but that was our premise.
I would rather have them think, right? So,
I would
so this
too.
idea that we're trying to bump up the
Yes,
standards
right.
and trying to, you know, that's an opportunity.
I
to
would
say,
rather him do A than to be able to make, I would rather him be able to tell me why life can exist on the planets or not exist on the planets.
That's
rather
what
than
But they have to look at the
order.
planets to know because they don't know what the planets are.
the other planets
That's a,
in relation to Earth. Did we talk
but
about
they're
that?
changing them all the time, we
Do
lost
you know the
one.
levels
they
of
are changing, they're just changing
organization?
the size, they just, they do.
No.
Do you know the levels of organization that organisms are classified in?
Nope,
Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. That is a huge important fact to biology.
I don't teach biology,
You obviously teach the solar system, so why don't you teach biology?
this is not in my dailies.
Well, I'm gonna tell you that every single content area has those little things
Sure.
that.
And I'm
are
saying, like,
awesome
you're
that you
knowledgeable
can
in
do
that,
it.
your knowledge in that area will help you in other aspects.
Not kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, that was nothing.
I've gone as far as I can.
There you go. I think the order of the planets is the same thing, but that's just me.
I would just say-
So you're not saying it's obsolete. I mean,
Are you
I think
taking
most of us did.
are you taking a vote?
On what? No,
I don't think it's on the same right there, this is right
You know
there.
what, I should have just kept my mouth shut. We just said one of several planets, you're like, where do we talk about other planets?
We don't
do that, and that's all I said.
Freaky bit.
One thing I'm thinking is,
Right.
it's like somebody made the statement, they said, we teach the planets, right? And so I don't know what, I don't know what that means.
That means that teachers do it because it's a low level, easy to teach thing.
And what I'm
That's
saying
right.
is,
I don't think it's, no, I don't think it's because it's an easy to teach thing, it's a foundational thing.
Not the names of the
Not the
planets,
names.
that's a regurgitation thing. The thing
To
you
know
want
your
them to
planets, if
know,
you're within your solar system,
the thing you want them to know is how close, the concept that how close they are to the sun affects what life can live on those planets.
Absolutely.
That's the concept you wanna get.
and you put your head, there's a dot here, dot here.
But whether
You wanna know
it's
what those dots are, you
Uranus
gotta look them up.
or, whether it's Uranus or Venus or Mars, that has nothing to do with it.
But because you don't want
But
to
you don't-
master it, doesn't mean you
You can still teach it, it's not a part of the standards though, so why
But
are
it's
you
not
doing that?
something we should be assessing on a test, is can you name
Right.
all the names?
Right.
Planets, because it's gonna change.
Right.
And it shouldn't.
The inventors have changed it. They,
Whether
one time,
it's a
they
planet.
changed, in
I do think it's a
100 years,
perfect place to
they
introduce
changed the
technology
size of
and where
Pluto
we are
and
compared to
kilometers.
where we were 5 years ago. Kids.
Okay, so back to the fifth grade ABC, are we good with leaving it?
Yes.
I think so. What about third grade AB?
Okay.
and
We
we're still
didn't, oh,
there.
yeah,
We're still there, they're fine.
I'm good with them.
Okay, so have we looked at kindergarten?
That's where we're headed.
Well, hold on. On B, on third grade B, I just think it's worded a little funny.
Should it be reflector of light
Yeah.
Yeah.
instead of reflection?
The moon itself is not nearly a mirage.
Yeah.
No moon.
Well,
Here's my suggestion for B, I think, right?
Observe the moon over time and identify that it shines by reflecting sunlight.
It doesn't shine, it reflects.
What did you
You can't say
say?
it shines, because if it shines, then it's saying.
Observe the moon over time and
Hold on, where are you going?
Why do you have to observe it over time?
It shows that it changes.
No,
We
that's
did the
later.
phases later.
That's later.
But-
It's the real.
But the idea of reflecting, reflecting sunlight,
Exactly.
We are not being active listeners.
the idea that it reflects sunlight is related to something going through.
But you know what, that's later.
Well, but
It's
always
on
reflects-
here
it's always
later.
reflecting the sunlight.
I
Doesn't matter
promise.
what
The
phase it's
phases
in.
come later.
Oh, yeah, I know the phases are on there.
Oh, and they are, yeah.
Yeah.
Fifth grade.
Yeah, they're done.
It's in there. I
So
know
do
it
you
is.
wanna change that one?
But we do wanna change.
Only when you change is reflection.
It's not a reflection.
It's a reflector,
Reflector of sunlight.
like your bicycle reflectors.
Of sunlight, yes.
I do believe, yes, sunlight needs some sunlight.
Okay, so do you think if
It's not-
another
it's not
light
like-
shone on it, it wouldn't reflect?
Well, it might, but it
But
is,
it doesn't, I mean, that's not.
it is the sun.
How do you know it doesn't?
Talk about like, because there's no other light
I
source.
believe all those myths.
How do you know there's no light
Right, I got this, yeah.
If there's an explosion, would it reflect off of it?
Hey, if
Okay,
there's-
drop
if there's
it,
an
I'm
explosion,
good,
we'll come
put
back and-
sunlight, move on.
Hey,
And we just vote.
Yeah,
Okay,
leave
great.
it, man, sunlight.
You don't want that.
Cause I'm good with sunlight, but you know what? You can reflect other light off the moon this side.
Sure.
So you show me just, I will. I'll show you the Big Bang Theory where they reflect. You show me.
no, it reflects off of a pad that we placed on the moon.
That's right.
All right, I'll give you that.
The reflectors are
No, sorry.
Two different categories.
But I have learned more.
Me too. All I need to do is attend these meetings, and I'm getting tired. But, why did I have more about science than I ever thought?
Really, everyone of yours.
We're all nerds in our own way, don't let us get
Yeah, I got a sun question, a moon sun question, I'll think for you.
We don't want
I
to
wanna get-
hardly wait.
No, it messes me up every time I look out, and there's half a moon and the sun is in the sky at the same time.
Yeah, cause you can see the sun, it reflects the sunlight.
Yeah, but if you only see half the moon,
That's because of the way it's, it's reflecting, and we're, our
it's
position.
not reflecting at that point. I mean,
It is reflecting.
It's always reflecting, no, I'm saying, but the position of it, how, supposedly it gets its shape because of the curvature of the earth. But if the sun is here and the moon is there,
Well, what gets its shape? What do you mean it gets its shape from the curvature?
well, the reflection that you see,
That's what we see.
I wouldn't say that.
because you wouldn't even see the whole
It's not
moon.
the curvature, it's how much of the earth covers the moon.
I realize that, but they're both in the same, they're both in the sky at the same time, it's
No,
very.
it isn't.
It's a shadow.
And that's why I was saying over time.
Oh, the
Because
shadow.
at some time, when you can see them in the sky at the same time, you know where the sun is, you're not supposed to look at it. But you can see the moon, and you can say, oh, okay, I see why I'm only seeing half the moon, because it's the sunlit side that I'm seeing. And so, for instance,
Think how
you can see, right now, you
But it blows your mind.
look, see, it's
Yeah,
like
my
you can read,
5-year-old too.
like if you can see the deja blue. But if I turn it around, you can't see the word deja blue over here, right? So the idea is that you can only ever see half of any object at any time. And so the moon is no different.
So what causes the moon phases?
The orientation of the moon and the sun and the earth.
That's what I'm saying.
But you said block, the moon.
The orientation of the earth, the way the earth is in
The
between it,
shadow of
right?
the earth passes over the moon.
Hey, we're gonna draw a picture up later, I'm gonna blow you,
You started
We're
this.
gonna design it, but really.
Yeah, that's right, that's.
It is truly, it's truly difficult to understand, because no, the other day, okay, I'm facing south, I'm facing south, we got the sun here, we've got the moon here. The shadow on the moon is the bottom half of the moon, has got a curvature to it. And I'm started looking at it, trying to figure out how to explain to my third grader, because I know it's gonna be asking me, why, if the sun is out and the moon is out, and there's nothing in between them,
Then we can,
that you can.
so something has to be there, otherwise.
Nothing is blocking the moon. The moon is blocking itself.
The
So
moon, it's the moon,
backside,
yes.
it's around the curve of the moon.
Of the moon or the earth?
I'm bringing balls and see where we have to explain.
Okay, you're gonna have to get out.
Okay, get the
I
flashlight
really want
and
to
be
get
sure
out.
that.
Yeah, beach
Get the
ball.
flashlight and the beach ball and show
Well,
it.
It's not
I've
the,
never thought of it as the shadow. And I
No,
thought
it's a shadow, I mean,
it's
no, really, it has to be the shadow. But the problem with it is, I don't understand how there is a shadow when nothing, because the shadow is something that's blocking the light source.
right.
It's
If
the
they're
shadow
both
of
the-
the earth, isn't it?
No.
It's the shadow of the moon?
No, wait.
It's the
What's
fact,
it the shadow of?
it would be the fact that the moon is a sphere.
Right.
Right, and so the sun, like if you're the sun, so pretend you're the sun.
Should we all stand up and do
That's
this?
that's the best way to stand up and do it. So you're
I'm
shining,
bringing, I'm telling you, I'm bringing balls.
Wait,
you're like, you're the sunlight shining, you can only see half the moon. Now she is the earth, and this is the moon, okay? So for instance, I could orient this so that she can see this
Oh, I see what
line,
you're saying, that makes perfect
right?
sense.
And so you see only half the bottle, the other half is back, behind it. You see half this bright and half this dark. You could call that a shadow, I guess, but I wouldn't call it a shadow because there's nothing
It's
casting.
blocking.
Right.
You're saying,
That
you're
is the way
saying the
it's
dark
explained,
side, in that moment, you're saying the dark side of the moon as well as the light side of the moon.
That's right.
Okay, all right. You are an adult.
too.
You are an
I still
adult.
need to see it
And
again.
think about how huge that
Yeah, we're
concept
on one of
is.
those misconceptions right now, so I think.
Hey, all the babies.
But
you
that's,
don't
and
teach
then
yourself
maybe
to
that's where we put
understand
this.
it.
All right, well, we got to go back to last week.
My son
Couple weeks ago, I thought I asked you this
question
question.
But distinguishing between whether you're
Whether it's a
observing the
shadow.
dark side of the moon or the Earth's shadow cast across the moon.
And that's the thing, if you say
That's
shadow,
different.
now people think blocking, and it's not blocking, only during an eclipse.
Only, yeah,
Oh,
only
yeah.
Which was very awesome, you guys got to see that last week.
I saw I did.
Awesome.
I was driving on my way to work.
In there, well,
Tears of hell.
Yeah, that was just perfect.
Oh, okay, so what impact does that discussion have on where you want to go
I think
with
it's why I
this?
don't really want to do things, but I figured it was up.
Nothing, we're keeping it the way it is.
But is that a note we need to
Well,
make,
and again,
or
I think-
not where, that section?
Not in
Yeah,
this,
you-
not in this.
That's
No,
why she
no,
doesn't.
no.
Because if they watch it over time, they
We're talking about moon
know,
phase
You
stuff.
need to put that in there.
you know, when it's up in the sky at the same time as the sun,
You're talking about those teachable moments,
it's
really?
not.
I just took this as a teachable moment, but I want you to learn.
So what do you need a third column notation? I'm just asking you, do we need a third column notation?
No,
Yes.
no.
Not when you're doing
No,
that.
right, no.
Not when you're doing that.
Okay, three
Right now, we're
pages.
just saying it's gonna.
Well, say, I apologize for getting this off track, but something I wanted to know.
Professional development.
It is professional development, yes.
Because I've wanted this for, and I'm still not 100% clear on it, so I.
Now, is that just in the
You're
daytime?
gonna have to get a flashlight.
Wait, you
and
just
a
got
gun.
words.
Once you move it all around.
I'm not sure I've done that, and then I think maybe it's
At night,
instead of the light, instead of.
No, I meant
The shadow, no,
the,
what you demonstrate.
yeah. Is that the daytime or is that nighttime too?
Well, don't forget, I mean, so she's the Earth, she's spinning.
Right,
Her head is spinning around, so the moon takes 29 days to go around like this.
Right.
She only takes 1 day to go one
Right.
pirouette, right? So by the time she's done one pirouette, it's moved a little bit.
Right.
And
So
it
you'll
doesn't,
get
and
a
it doesn't
different-
travel on a
You'll get a
flat,
different look.
it also doesn't travel on a flat plane.
That's
It
right.
travels on the.
That's why we don't get.
Or it goes like this.
Yeah, and the next.
It's slanted.
It's an ellipse that goes
Which is,
top
so
to
the
bottom,
moon,
or we're spinning flat.
But even more
It's going
so,
top to
more
bottom.
so is that the plane is slightly slanted.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you understand
Yeah.
the physics in this? This is huge.
Is that?
Okay, so you understand.
Yeah,
I'm an astrophysicist.
These are Sheldon's buddies here on When I have Sheldon came in the room, I questioned the asking. Thank you, Sheldon.
So, is it not a shadow?
No.
Technically, no.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't say shadow.
Not by definition.
Because
think
you
it leads
just
to
enlightened me that it was a shadow.
Well, it's the moon's shadow, but it's not the Earth's shadow. It's,
The,
it's not even the
the
moon
thing is,
shadow.
the thing that's making it outside dark is essentially that the hump of the moon is
There's your
blocking the light.
dissertation, Harry.
So
that's not what a shadow is.
I guess that's right.
No,
I-
it's
I-
shadow is something cast off to the side.
Well, but it is blocking, it's the curvature of the moon is blocking the light from back here, and the light shines on this side but not this side because it's past the curvature of the, past the terminal.
Alright, so what you're saying is, right now, my shadow is what's reflected on the ground, not my back's lack of being lit.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Standard
So
part
what,
of
so what's
project
the word
is
that
metal.
we use?
I don't know
Right.
what the word is, you're gonna have to invent one and then copyright it and be a millionaire, but
Do it.
it's not a shadow.
Alright, so now we're working on the next generation trying to say,
Because they did not refer to it
the
as
ultra
shadow.
next generation.
Did they ever use the word shadow in this, Jim?
I don't think it's a shadow, because it's the lack of light reflecting,
It's
it's
the
not a
lack of-
shadow.
That's just dark.
It's the
That's
lack of
dark.
light reflecting.
Which is
not
why we
that
call
light.
it the dark side of the moon, not the shadow side of the moon.
Exactly. Good.
We have all been schooled.
About trying to teach this to fifth graders.
No, absolutely
No,
not.
I just always waited for that question, I couldn't answer, and I was like,
Okay, so where are we?
That's why you
we're on the string six.
That's why you
Everybody,
models.
when it's-
To do it without a model, you can't, it's much easier.
We're strand 6, 2, is that correct?
We are still
Did we
on
do
strand
kindergarten?
one.
No,
You tried, but then you got switched.
we got derailed.
You derailed us.
Exactly.
Well, I thought we'd already cleared that, and that's okay, before we go on, I'm gonna ask this question, it's gonna be derailing.
Alright, so we're going, are we at kindergarten?
Yep,
Oh,
I'm
we said
good
B,
with
I'm
them.
sorry, we said
I'm
B.
good with both of those, but.
we haven't done the rest of A yet.
I know.
Hey, what, third
Big
grade?
A,
Third grade?
Big A.
kindergarten, we're on big A, kindergarten.
Capital A, big A drives me insane as reading teacher, sorry.
Capital A. All right.
You know, like a big A.
I can't do hot dog and hamburger, so I can't do big A.
What's wrong with it?
Just go where you are.
You can be the scientist.
I am the rundown.
It would be a lot better if I had my list from the
Back tomorrow.
You ever good with A and B? We look at it?
Yes, the lowercase a.
I mean, especially the upper and lower case.
I will say that my son has asked this question, that why can't anyone count? And that when I said, well, there's
There's
more
too
stars.
many.
You can, you just.
You
run out of time.
That's like,
You can count them, but it's gonna take you several
You're like
lifetimes.
standing on the beach.
Yeah.
And here's the unfortunate part, by the time you get them counted, it won't be accurate because they'll have exploded and moved on.
But you do it the same way. If you wanted to count grains of sand on the beach, you'd get a cup full,
You do a sample.
or you do a sample, and then
Yeah,
sample.
And that's not
that's
really
what I'm saying,
counting,
we're
that's
going to leave
guessing.
that like that, more than anyone.
It's like bacteria in a microscope.
Yes. Well, I mean,
You
if
have
you
a
want
lid and you count
That's
how
what I'm
many
saying.
are.
Are we done with B?
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Unless
I'm
you
fine
want
with B, but I'm just saying that.
Capital B or lowercase?
lowercase.
And I don't think, because that's what I'm gonna ask next, I was going with capital. I was ready to say that, I was already ahead of you.
The only question I have about A
Okay.
is when we say observe and sun in the same, do we have to worry about people not knowing that they're not
Observe
supposed to
and sun.
observe the sun?
They know not to look at the sun.
That's good, no, I'm fine, that's fine, that's great.
All right, we could say notice.
So A and B are okay.
I don't think.
Yes, moving
So
on.
now we're on to capital B.
Then
Fifth grade, lowercase a.
Okay, one problem, it should be allow instead of allows. There's grammatical problem. Allow instead of allows.
Okay, describe the physical features of the planet Earth that allows life to exist. Water, temperature, air, whatever. And compare these to the physical features of the moon, the sun, the moon, and other planets.
So features allow.
That's correct.
Yes.
Do we need the planet Earth or a planet Earth? Okay, doesn't matter, just leave it there.
Well, we referred to it as the earth.
Yeah, I think you take Earth.
Planet sort of
Oh, planet
redundant,
Earth. I think she means don't say God as well. Anyway,
or take out.
features of
Oh, I see.
Or Or I guess it is good to remind kids that Earth is a planet, because I think sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only right now.
As opposed to the center.
Well,
Yeah,
which is.
most kids think they are.
It won't be.
Observe that the sun rotates around.
Is everybody good with this?
I think so,
Fix
yes.
that?
So just those two minor
Yep.
grammatical issues.
What was the second one?
Just take out the,
You're
it's just of planet Earth,
But that was one.
and then the allow.
Allow.
And C, we have nothing?
Correct.
So we're good there?
Two.
Big two.
Big two, little three.
Grade six, big two, I like to say big two.
There you go.
Regular and predictable motions. Regular predictable motions of objects in the universe can be described and explained as a result of gravitational forces. Fifth grade, scope and sequence of solar system. It says sequence images of.
Okay, wait a minute,
Uh-oh.
wait, you skipped.
Uh-oh. Oh, we did, I'm sorry.
You need to be on third grade.
Sorry, we're on capital A.
Capital A, yeah.
We're on where?
Could we change that?
Hey, look, hey,
It's just third grade, I'm sorry. I was.
But you know what, I mean, the fact that you read that out loud, you said gravitational forces, I would have never picked up that that was gonna be part of it, so I mean, we gotta see if that's in here.
Right, and then big A says,
I don't think it's in here.
I'm just checking her sheet.
I learned it, I just let you.
Capital A says the apparent position of the sun and other stars as seen from Earth change the observable patterns. 3A, third grade A, illustrate and describe how the sun appears to move slowly across the sky from east to west during the day.
Now, what does the word illustrate mean? What do they mean by that?
Draw a picture, draw on a poster, draw on it.
So that'd be observing it and then noting where it is at the different times of the day.
Yep.
So
See,
it
we would actually-
appears to move across the
And we would
sky.
actually do that through shadows, is how we
And
do it.
that's how we do it.
We do it through shadows.
illustrate it by having
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean, I think that's right. The
Yeah,
illustrate,
you see
draw
it
it,
where I,
or a model, right? It's a model.
But just by saying illustrate and describe, that leaves you open to do anything.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is everybody good with A?
Yes.
Thumbs up?
Yep.
We got it on our camera. So then we're on to kindergarten, lowercase a. Scope and sequence, objects in the sky. Describe the sun as the only being seen in the daytime and appears to move across the sky.
Now, my kindergartner just pointed out the other day, he can see the sun and the moon at the same time.
Right.
Yeah,
But not
it
at
doesn't
night.
say that. It just says the sun is only visible in the daytime.
But not at
And
night.
appears to move
Right.
It appears to be across from one.
So it's not good.
Okay. See, I was reading that
Only being
backwards.
seen in the
I was
daytime.
thinking it was the only being seen,
Yeah.
but it's not.
Right.
No,
It's
what, you know what,
only
though?
being seen.
Only being.
I
Why
Yes,
don't,
I
I
have
tell you
it
what,
right.
why don't we change the word night to evening? Because if it's down at the night, then what is, then you don't know how it's moving at night. But we know how it moves from morning to evening.
Evening is, you can still see it.
That's what I'm saying. It's,
Or you
but
could
it's
say
moved,
dusk,
but it's moved.
if you worry about that kind of thing, which I don't.
Also, the earth is, it's,
Detail,
Right.
morning, night.
That's not the day to day.
right.
Yeah, I think there's a bigger concept there, morning and night for kindergarten, just as Jimmy said. Just as-
Yeah, I think what you're saying, Matt.
Mhm.
Because that
It's
they
at
can
the dinner
understand
expense.
that.
Right.
Black
They-
hole
they
is set up
can
of the
figure that
galaxy
one out.
is
Yes.
the galaxy.
Well, and I would want it to be from sunrise to sunset.
Yeah.
And if that's too big
That's
for
kind of
kindergarten.
kindergarten.
So I would-
That's what says on our, that's what says on our kindergartner's chart.
Well, it may be good to put that in parentheses, one of those things that you introduce there, but you would never want it assessed on those terms. But I think you're exactly right. You would introduce those terms, but you want to avoid that idea.
Sure. Let it,
They used to be there. Sunrise and sunset, and it was always important, I don't remember. what it
Every day,
was.
you would do every day.
No, I can't remember my sunrise and sunset, I can't remember.
So what are we doing?
No.
Let's just leave it as is.
Leave as is.
Thanks.
The brand new students.
We're heading on to capital B, fifth grade.
Lowercase a.
The apparent position of the moon as seen from Earth and its actual position relative to the Earth changes in observable patterns. Well, yes, it does. This is where we're going to phases here.
Yep.
Sequence of images, and again, this is solar system. Sequence images of the lit portion of the moon seen from the Earth as it cycles day to night in about a month in order of occurrence. Notice it does not say.
This is where we need Bob.
No, actually, this is exactly what Bob was saying.
Yeah.
It's the lit portion of the.
Lit portion of the.
It's the lit portion, not the unlit portion.
Well, I'm sorry, what's
We
that?
think you were validated.
We're having a real good.
You've just been validated.
We think you were validated.
What's this, Rick?
Hey, talking about the
It
lit portion of
doesn't
the moon.
cycle day to day, it cycles night to night.
No, it cycles every minute of the day. It's cycling.
Yeah,
Every minute that it's spinning.
the planet is spinning, 1,000 miles per hour.
What is?
It's part of the cycle. It's a
Well,
sequence
that's the equation.
images
That's
of
the
the
equation.
portion
Earth spinning,
of
1,000
Earth
miles
as
an
it
hour.
cycles day
Which
to
means
day in
our,
about a
our
month.
parent's position relative to the moon is in constant motion.
Our position relative to the moon.
Where we're spinning right now and where the apparent position of the moon is, it's in constant motion.
If that were true, then we would have the complete phase change in one day.
No,
No.
no, it's
Why not?
continuous, it continuously moves every second of every day.
What does?
Our positions of the moon,
Both our position
And the moon.
relative.
it's a, if you time lapse it, it would continuously, it never stops.
My
I'm
problem,
not saying it
my problem,
stops.
my problem with 5A is that I don't think, like, I couldn't do it. Okay, in other words, if you gave me a waxing gibbous versus a waning gibbous, I wouldn't know the difference.
You know, actually, I should bring this
Going on,
up,
waves
that,
going on.
when
Well,
I
yeah, but I
talked
mean,
to-
which way is it lit and which way is
I
not?
think when I
That
was
you
talking
can't
to
tell
my,
just by looking at the moon.
yes, I was talking to my 7th grade teacher and asking her what they missed, you know, and this was something that in middle school, when they, I guess they tested in 8th grade,
It tested in fifth.
but I guess it was again in 8th where their kids missed it, and it was because on the test, they were given a linear sequence.
Yeah.
And that's not how they were teaching it. And that's what she said, if you're just showing them,
That's right.
how do you know the difference between waxing and waning? You can't
So
just,
it can't tell, that's right. You can't like say,
Yeah, it
well,
comes-
if the left side is lit, it must be waning, and if the right side is lit, it's waxing. You
you
can't
can't,
tell that.
no. And
So
that's what
that's
she
what
was
I'm
saying, that was another thing where, the way it's tested, the way the standard is written, you can present it in many different ways, but that's not how they were tested on it. And
Right.
all of their kids, I mean, they immediately, as soon as they saw that score, they knew.
Yeah.
It almost, in many instances, becomes a memorization issue.
That's
I'm
right.
just gonna memorize the definition of waning, waxing,
Well-
and really not have an understanding of what it is.
Right, that's true, but what I'm saying is, if I showed you the moon, and I could say,
That's
okay,
what she
waning
said.
means it's more than half or whatever, give us whatever, but if the left half is lit, is that waning or waxing? There's no way to know.
So what do we want kids to know from this?
Because that's what she was saying, that the way the standard is written, the way she was teaching it was not the way it was tested in
Right.
her
So,
kids.
but bottom line, what do we want kids to know and be able to do from this concept? Because I'm pretty dang sure I don't want them to be able to know the name of moon shapes
Right,
and that. I want them to realize that it changes
right.
over time
Changes.
throughout the what, month? So I want them to know that it changes over time throughout the month. So how do I word it so that that is what kids know and are able to do when we get done?
I want us to just put that in the third column, don't teach your kids the names of moon shapes.
But they do, you don't know how many people.
We have an astrophysicist here, guys, and we are talking about fifth grade teachers who
Right.
are not astrophysicists.
So how do we get
So
the
how do
point
we get that
across?
to them?
That we want them to know that it changes.
I think observation, or
I
observer,
do
something
too.
that's a very important word to put in there.
I do too.
But you know, I mean, to get to your point, like what the standards do is they, a lot of times they'll have like a column like in the first couple pages. that our philosophy is you want to do more like this and less like this. You know what I mean? And I think I've seen where things like it would be less memorization, more thinking, more higher level. So that's all that's.
Wasn't there one about the sun that we just did not long ago?
I mean, I guess it's essentially like, again, a model, right? They're talking about basically, what I think, to answer your question, Ann, what do I want them to know, is that what we see in the moon, right, the shape of the lit side of the moon is related to the positions, the geometry of Earth, Moon, and Sun.
Good.
So they have to make
So identify
okay.
the relationship between
the lit part of the moon.
the lit part of the moon and
Versus
its alignment, its position, its what? Don't say geometry.
Relative position.
Its
Relative.
position where?
Relative position.
To the, what?
Relative position of Earth,
It's-
Moon, and Sun.
Relative position,
The earth, moon, and sun.
Of Earth.
not Earth, Moon, and Sun, because we already said the moon, it's of Earth and Sun, right?
But,
Its relative
Oh, I see.
position
oh,
To
okay.
the earth and sun.
to,
It's
thank
okay,
you,
there you go. Yeah.
to Earth and Sun. So identify the relationship between the lit part of the moon and its relative position to the Earth and Sun. I think that's a lot better than sequence the
Now,
images.
would you want to say shape of the lit part of the moon? I mean,
That's
like
fine.
shape thing?
I can do that.
Okay.
Read over the top.
Go ahead, you got it.
Identify the relationship between the shape of the lit part of the moon and its relative position to the Earth and Sun.
Should you put the time? A month, in about a month, or should that month
Well,
be in there?
that's the sequence, that's the full cycle.
I don't know that a month would have to be because it'll be the same relationship the next month. So the relationship would start over again every month, which if they want to do it for more than a month, they would see that
And
pattern.
I think
And
using
discover
a month is not really correct anyway, because it's an.
It's not always
day
right,
cycle.
it's a 29-day cycle, I think.
It's really the word, though, the word month comes from moon.
We do, but that's where science and reality.
I know. I'm just saying,
Glitch.
that's probably what.
I just didn't know if you wanted to take it out of
Okay,
I don't
so is
know.
this, so is this correct?
Identify the relationship between the shape of the lit part of the moon relative, and relative position to the earth and sun, and its relative.
Yeah. Is that what we want them to know?
That's what.
And as a fifth grader, I think they should be able to understand that.
Is there a third column for the teacher?
Absolutely, we need that little model.
Make a model.
Absolutely.
Use a model.
Not the kids make a model, but
Right,
the
right.
I
teachers
still
need
think
to
they need
give
to be
them.
observing,
I do too.
you know.
So observe and identify.
But that's somewhere else, right? We've already got it in.
No.
In
Not
different.
for fifth
No,
grade.
not for this
Oh, not
concept.
the fifth grade. Oh.
I think, what about observe and explain or describe rather than
Then
identify?
identify.
Let's say observe, you want to describe it or explain it?
Explain.
And
Yeah,
explain.
and there's not wrong with
And explain could be through a diagram, or
It
through
could
a
be through
drawing, could
anything.
be anything.
However they do
That leaves
it.
it open.
I like that better.
Perfect.
And FYI, the only place I really find this touched on in GSS is in the middle school.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
You're laying foundational work, but it's middle school. Because of the abstractness of the
But I
concept.
think, like I said, this goes back to the misconceptions, you know, I have a seventh grade teacher telling me her kids are still missing this on the math test because they're not getting it.
I'm telling you that
In the-
I don't get it. As an adult,
Or the test
yeah,
is,
I don't
the
get
test
it.
is bad.
Yeah,
Gee,
well,
and
we
that is
can
a
already say all day
possibility.
long, can't we, sure?
Maybe she wants to.
Well, you know, they also do item analysis, and if that consistently comes off, guys, they're gonna pull that item off eventually.
But here's the deal, we haven't touched
But
it.
you
So it depends on who's.
And they're using everything, using
Who's
the
assessing
same
the
test.
they changed forms last
I would
year.
assess, like, for instance, the ITBS test, I assessed the ITBS test.
We have to
Every
change
year.
it.
weekend signs every
Conceptual
year.
error, misconception.
They actually, I
IT
just
people
changed
are
2 years ago. Went from
Because it's
seven books to one book.
Format, yeah.
Normally, for a year, for the first 10 years of the map, every couple of years, they would check.
They,
And if
Jim and
there
I
was
would
a question that came off where a majority or a large number, they would either reword it and then they call it out. Put it
Well,
in.
that's what she said, she said
That's
maybe
good
she
if
needed
they keep analyzing.
to find a
No.
different way to teach it, but
They did, but when they started talking about doing away with the map, then they kind of went to, let's just use it till it blows.
I really don't know. I just participated in item analysis and stuff like that, and if we had bad things.
well, yeah, I'm just saying, she just said that was one thing specifically that she said she felt wasn't being, that was a huge misconception by the time they got to middle school was the whole.
All I know is that when we did do science in third grade, we used to do science, math, and everything. But I taught my kids shadows,
No, I
and
didn't do
then
that.
we always did
We
shadows.
did sunshine and
And
shadows, that was the name of the unit.
Then all of a sudden, moon phases came up on the, and they were able, I mean, I only had like 2 kids in the whole class who didn't get it on the test, they didn't get it correct on the test, because we'd already done all the work with shadows, which obviously, in hindsight, it wasn't truly a shadow, but you can still follow it because the shadow is the absence of light, because it's blocked. They really get the question correct, so. Are we on the
Where
2?
are we at? Yeah, this, 2A kindergarten?
2?
No, we're at third.
Oh, still third, okay.
We're on B.
Oh,
Capital.
capital B.
Capital B. You didn't say lower.
Thank
I
you.
did good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I can learn.
I kid you not.
Oh, that's okay. Well, okay, so how do we switch it 5 then? Because like I said,
This is gonna be a discussion, I should just do.
oh, we change it. Okay.
Not that I would mention it, but does anybody want to take a break or need to take a break?
I just
A
need
5
to,
minute?
so,
Okay.
anyone else needs to take 5?
Okay,
Be
sounds
back by
good.
2.
I do.
Stretch.
How are we done today?
6. 6. Your call.
Does anybody know this?
And they do that.
You going home?
Yes.
Oh, you gonna come? I have scouts tonight, so I need to turn over that big welcome check, because I know it's $600. Try to avoid it.
With the popcorn.
No, it was for a fundraiser.
And they need over $5,000.
They're not toys,
And we're still video.
Awesome.
Taking a
That's
break.
awesome.
Dawson was excited, he and my mom had to take water samples to the lab today.
Was it that water? Or-
Well, my mom lives at Lakeview Arts, and they have a subdivision there, but they have their own water plant. So, I don't know. Interval is that they have to.
My dad worked for the City of Independence for 25 years, or was the maintenance person at the model pumps for the Sugar Creek water disposal system. The ones that take all of the really bad stuff. They run the regular water too, sewer water, but they also run a lot of stuff in Amoco refinery. And they incinerate everything. And supposedly when they're done with it, you can drink the water right out of the big deal for a long, long time. Yeah,
They had, this was one of those things where, you know, they built this subdivision and when they did the engineering for the water and sewer, it was approved, to get DNR approval.
Right.
Well, by the time it was actually completed, DNR had changed their,
Regulations.
yes. So
That's
by the
awesome.
time they finished, it spent all this money, by the time it was finished, it was non-compliant. One of those things.
Yeah.
So I think they've got it worked out now, where as long as they submit their, they don't have to spend the,
Like $1 zillion to update.
because there's not that many, most of them are not full-time residences anyway.
Right.
And there's not that many.
There's some seepage back into the lake. Do they got like a lagoon or where do they have?
No, they have a lift station.
Where's it pumped to?
I think back into, it may tie in like to the county. This is in it's not a municipality.
Well, that's what I said, but a pump station would be probably get into the municipality somewhere into their system. Usually go down the lake. Operators are out there.
I'm gonna go downstairs and get those tea.
It may be a group of them that come together, there may be a lagoon in the first section.
Okay, I'll get it, I got it, no problem. Anybody else?
I'm good.
I'm good. But anyway, like I said, I've never examined how it all exactly. I know that was the reason they had to.
Had a interesting debate with some of our friends next door.
Yeah, we're gonna keep
Well, yeah, I thought you said that we were headed over there, but I didn't see anybody.
Down the street.
right down here.
Yeah, I thought you also were going over to where we were last time, so I went over there and said, I don't see anyone. And then all the, the high school kids came in, so I knelt them. But there appeared to be legitimate debate as to whether the standards should be aligned with scientific consensus or with community consensus.
I think you've got to go with scientific. I think you have to, otherwise you're not being true to it.
That was what I argued, but
You're not on there.
That shouldn't even be an argument. That's kind of like going back to Kansas. Kansas decided they were going to go against scientific measures in science,
Right.
which is.
And so I said there really isn't, you don't even need to look at a scientific consensus to know that humans impact our ecosystems, and by impacting our ecosystems, we impact our climate. And it's okay to teach that because the scientific consensus.
Are they trying to discuss?
And the preponderance of evidence is support both of those things. That doesn't mean you have to make the jump to global
warming.
Well, no, I was going to say, I don't know what the science is that exists around global warming, around global climate change. There's a scientific consensus around climate change. What are the predicators of said change? I think it appears to be some measure of incongruity on. But that, our climate is changing at a micro and macro level, and that humans have an impact on it. I don't think all that controversial since there is scientific consensus around those. And it's not seem to be the case next year.
I think the argument you get into is that, and Alex was pointing that out last time, she's not here to further discuss that, but the fact that there are other things that also contribute.
Right.
And I think that in a lot of situations.
But nobody said that wasn't.
No, I know, but in some situations, in some circles, it's not being discussed in that way. It's being discussed in terms of humans responding.
Oh, we are. I mean, you want to go live on a landfill?
No.
So that part of the earth is destroyed for our use and for really anybody else's use except for microorganisms.
Right, but we are not the only ones that actually.
No, we are the only ones creating.
Oh, that's true. Yes, that's true. I'm not going to argue about that. But there are other things that we're doing that are helping the environment.
Certainly.
I need that.
And all I said was that
Perfect.
humans
Perfect.
impact our
And I use this a lot. And I
ecosystems.
thought of you when you were talking. I will email it to
No, I
you.
don't think that.
I'm always looking for
I'm
text.
I don't think that's revolutionary to teach.
No, it's not, but I think there's been a lot of times when it's been, this, I don't know, it's just not been taught the way I think some people feel it should be taught.
But I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination. It's a human impact on water quality
SPS mail done. What did I
has
tell you?
been more
I saw another.
That is how I Google it.
than natural impact on water quality. I can't think of natural, I can't think of the last time there was a natural flow in the Gulf.
Because we're not making
And so when I think about impacts on the water quality, I think human impacts on water quality, I'm trying to imagine other sources of pollution.
Sometimes like if there's a volcanic
Yeah.
event of some kind,
Absolutely.
or a spring that's contaminated, you know, something that's coming up.
Absolutely. You know, there could be all kinds of minerals at least in it. I'm just trying to think of.
That would be an example though of pollution
Yeah.
that would occur
Naturally.
naturally, yeah.
I'm just trying to think of when you put it
There's
in the
just not
balance.
as many as
That's what I'm
there
saying.
are.
I'm trying to think of when you put it in the balance.
We have to discuss that humans are,
It seems like humans are the great percentage of the water quality balance.
and I get what, I get it, and then there are people who don't want us to bring up human impacts whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right, so that's.
But
But that's not
not
science.
even
I'm
real.
sorry, that's so.
But that's not science.
I was gonna suggest.
The other thing that I've always struck with, and I noticed this when I was in my classroom, that sometimes though, we navigate towards all negative human impacts, and we
Positive
truly
impact.
have positive.
You know, that's very true.
And I had to step back, huh?
Farm, you know,
Absolutely.
agriculture, excuse me,
Like I just saw this,
there are a
what
lot of-
science is,
Yeah.
just gave me yesterday.
Right.
And here's these people trying to save this endangered plant.
Absolutely, yeah.
Speaking, because they're playing those.
And we don't always spend a lot of time. It's a lot easier to get caught in the gloom and doom avenue and not think about the good things we do as well.
All
So
the
we have
bad
to be
things that
careful.
farming does to the environment, it
Right.
feeds everyone on the planet.
Right.
So,
Right.
So you have to kind of balance.
It depends if you believe that's a good thing or not.
Yeah.
Maybe there should be less of us.
yeah, that's
But
what
even in Missouri, the deer problem that we have, the excess deer, our conservation department does a phenomenal job of balancing that. So, I mean, it's just, there's checks and balances, so I think it's important to
And I think
remember the
those are
positives.
focused on.
And we don't always focus on the positives. I agree with
And I
you.
would agree with that statement,
Yeah.
completely, that we don't focus on the positive.
Right.
I'm trying to think of where, in the terms of water quality, I'm trying to think of specific examples of where we have shown up and
make it better.
improved water quality. Not that, you know, so there's water exists, there's a natural circumstance, and where you've shown up and as a result of us being there, the water quality for the entire ecosystem was better than when we arrived. Now, I clearly see examples where we pollute water, and then we do things to remediate that, and then it goes on, and so it has a null, ideally, it has a null impact.
Because that was where I was going with, watershed projects.
Yeah.
That different counties do, because the Spring River in, Jasper County. Because I
Yeah.
know, because my son wrote the watershed and it was approved the EPA.
That's where I grew up.
But colleges often will send a group to other countries, and they will have built this model of water purification, and they'll go down there and set it up. So there used to be scientists in this now, and they give awards for whoever does the best project. So there are tiny little things going on these. I mean, you know,
We don't see it large scale. I think it's small scale
but
at
a
first.
lot of young people are going into this area, also engineering and water therapy.
And I guess so, like, in Springfield, we use lake water as our primary drinking water. If we didn't have a human filtration system set up to be able to use that, we wouldn't be able to drink that water. It's just naturally in the water, there's a problem. You know, so for us to be able to use it because of bacteria or whatever naturally occurs in
Naturally
there.
occurring there.
Right, if we didn't filter it, then we wouldn't be able to use it. So I think, again, the cases are less than when we cause a problem and try to clean that, but there are positives.
All right, where we at? Going,
We stopped off at
2B, 3A? That's 3A?
stopped at third.
Yeah.
Do
We're on
not
third.
assess move basis.
Yes, that's where we are.
Better change to be appearance relative to the time of day and month as it occurs over such months.
Okay, so we changed 5 to be a better indicator of what we wanted students to know and be able to do when we got done. So in my mind, we need to change 3 to prepare students for what we're asking them to do in 5.
I agree.
So in 5, at 5th grade, we're asking them to explain the relationship. To me, at 3rd grade, they just need to observe and find the pattern, like observe and, so describe the pattern of change that can be observed in the men's appearance. I would like to word it the way we worded it for the 5th one. So describe the pattern of change that can be observed between the lit part, shape of the lit part of the moon. Is that all we need to say?
Or do you just want?
The moon's appearance is what's throwing me.
And what's wrong?
Moon's appearance.
Well, I think too, to say that the time of month is not where the pattern is. You can't say, well, this is 16th, therefore it must be
So,
the
this.
way it is,
Right.
So.
Moon's appearance relative to time of day.
Oh, okay, yeah, instead of moon's appearance, so yeah, moon shapes of the lit one.
That's what I would like to substitute in there rather than saying moon's appearance.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna keep the front of it.
I'm gonna say, but you're gonna have to read that again, so don't.
But then also don't say time of month, because that changes from month.
Yeah, it changes.
It's different.
Do you want to read it?
Can be observed between the lit,
Shape of the lit part of the moon.
okay, describe the pattern of change that can be observed now.
In the shape of the lit part of the moon. And rather than saying relative to time of day and month, can't we just say over several days
Or the
or?
pattern of change. And not have it be related to the sun, just to see that there is in fact a pattern and there's a.
Yeah,
Right, because you're
Right.
building up to what we did at 5th
Would you
grade.
say describe the pattern of change over time, over
Yeah.
days?
Overtime.
change over time.
I just read it one day.
Don't you
Yes.
just put the light bulb, I see the light bulb
I'm just sitting here picturing in my mind, picturing her.
on. He had the moment, light bulb moment.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, makes perfect sense, right?
That's why Bob came
Like,
today.
Like after you finally get the physical model, then, oh yeah.
Well, I've done this about 500 times, it never works. Because you never can quite get the shadow right, you never can fit.
Yeah.
Get
It's
away
not
from
a
the
shadow.
That's exactly how you get away from the turn. That's exactly how you get away from the turn shadow. The turn lit, and it makes more sense.
You know what he's teaching when he goes back. Got a new lesson, boys and girls.
Those kids that want to get all the ones the one side.
Forget what I told you 2 months ago.
So we're changing that to overtime,
Yes,
to the of the moon overtime.
yes.
Do not assess moon
Do not,
phases.
please.
Please,
Yeah.
Yeah, please say that, because otherwise they will.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we're writing those to the people who are gonna be designing the test.
Now, I put the overtime in a different place. I could describe the pattern of change over time that can be observed in the shape of the lit part of the moon. Now, you don't get to change that.
No, you're right.
Okay, I just wanted to double check with you all.
Okay.
Are you feeling good about this? This is a 5, this is a 6, this is a go.
I think so.
I think it might help.
I do too.
I
think
really
we made a
this
really
would make
good
a big
change for the
difference
Yeah.
in teachers trying to teach this concept.
I think we put this out there on a separate column too.
Well, yeah, we do that, but even just with the standards, I think it's a
Yes.
change.
No, 100%.
Positive.
Yeah.
It's a,
It's a 2 thumbs up.
this is a,
So we're on to kindergarten?
Oh, my.
Here we go.
So the moon can be seen sometimes at night and sometimes during the daytime.
That's good, I think
That,
that's.
the moon, it's,
Oh.
the word that,
I think we just let that some words.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we want it to?
Yeah, but B is.
Observe that the moon appears to change shape over time, or that the lit part of the moon appears to
That,
change?
the D has to be changed, I was just looking at
Because
that.
the moon does not change shape.
Exactly.
Nor does it appear to
Well,
change.
if my teacher will even say to me, you know, when you can see the moon
Yeah.
and it's not quite dark outside, he will say, I can see the whole thing,
right.
Yes.
but one part is brighter.
On the other hand, it's drawn in for like in little kids' books, right?
Yes.
Thinking that you draw a crescent and like it's the crescent.
Uh-huh.
But you don't draw the rest of the moon.
Right, right,
So I
which is
think-
the start of the misconception.
That's right, so
Exactly.
maybe that's what they're, yeah.
Exactly.
Because my son actually, you know, this is me talking to a 5-year-old while we're
Right.
still in the watering trough, and he's saying to me, well, I can see the whole moon, but
Uh-huh.
only this part
That's right.
is lit up.
Bingo.
So a kindergartner gets that, but then they're confused by us.
Then
later.
we,
Right, yeah.
we're messing
Or by
up.
the, or by the leadership, or by the
Like I said, we need to
religious.
talk to the illustrators of children's books.
Yes. Okay, so we're rewording it.
Say cheese.
Observe that the lit
Good night, please.
part of the moon appears to change shape over
No,
the
we're on
course
B.
of the
We're on
month.
B.
Oh, I'm sorry, were we not done with A?
We were, but we're typing in the wrong place, I believe.
Oh.
You
Well,
want,
for-
you want A left alone.
Yes,
Why?
because it is what it is.
Do you want the word that in?
That.
Yes, it needs to
We
be
just wanted to know that the
Or-
moon can be seen day or night, and
Yes,
that's
I
the
think
goal
you're
there.
right. I think that's, observe that the moon can be seen.
Yeah, because that's what B says.
And
Because I have
then,
some people who tell me the moon can't be seen in the
Right.
morning.
oh, definitely.
There's some people who swear, even though you can walk outside and see the moon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is an important standard, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Observe the portion of the meters change shape over the course of a month.
Should we say over the course of time instead of a month?
You give it a cycle. Month is better because it gives you the cycle.
Over time again, right, just over
No.
time.
Remember when you start, if you have 30 days, you can come back to it. Or go to 20 days.
But,
Yeah. No, it's more like, what is it, 29 days?
Yeah, something like that.
Over time.
I think over time is better.
Yeah, I think over time is better too.
Because it changes over, in
I
5
feel
days
so
more
much
than.
better on this now.
And to be honest, the
I know it seems
the
silly.
period.
No,
period
it's
doesn't-
true, I do too.
Yeah.
This is
Right,
a
like,
relief.
the reason why they went for the month.
I think it's gonna help misconceptions.
Yeah, it's approximate. But the period isn't even 29 days, the period is
Sure.
dozens
So it
of
doesn't
years.
change, it doesn't change.
Right,
Never quite,
right.
because it's an ellipse.
Well, it
So
doesn't
there's
really
cycles.
Earth is going around in an ellipse too, so it's
Like I
never
said,
quite get the
that's
same.
the portion of
So it's
the
years, sure.
It's many, many years before it actually.
But it only does.
Wow.
Lines up.
Where
I don't
it's
know how
almost
they-
30 times, and then it's back to the reason it cycles, shapes.
It really is heavy duty.
It is, oh yeah, there's a lot.
This is the most abstract, I hate forensics, just personally, because I'm a bio.
But I would like teaching it to the kids because they had 1,000 classes.
Because they love it, yeah.
Well, yeah, I got a 5-year-old asking me why he can see the whole moon but only part of the clit, so I
Well,
get it.
it's something that changes right in front of them. They
Well,
say,
you know,
So
It's
within
in there, wow.
2 years, we had the wrong expert.
I'm sorry, we're sitting with statement 2,
I believe so,
now we're going to C, is that correct?
yes.
And then 5th grade,
Oh my
so
gosh.
Well, hey, go on.
Wait a minute. No, hold
I
on.
mean, it still says change shape, right? So I thought we had an issue with change shape.
Where are we at?
Yeah.
we're gonna say the lit portion.
Of the
Observe
moon.
that the lit portion of the,
change.
how about the shape of the lit portion of the
That's what we said.
Yes.
Okay. It just said that.
moon? Okay.
Oh, no, we didn't, but we need to.
The shape of the lit
Yeah.
portion of the moon appears to change over time.
No shape. And so take out the
So
second.
take out the second shape.
Yeah.
We just read, we're putting shape in a different place. Observe shape of the lit portion of the moon appears to change over time.
Observe that the shape
Yeah.
of the lit
Portion
portion
of
of
the
the
moon.
moon.
Got it. And you all, all okay to that? Okay.
Okay, now we're on the capital C.
Yeah, like it.
Also, here.
The regular American unpredictable motions of the Earth and Moon relative to the Sun explain natural phenomena on Earth such as day, month, year, shadows, moon phases, ellipses, tides, eclipses, tides, and seasons. I'm trying to figure out what ellipsis was in there.
Where are you?
He was reading.
Reading C.
Under the capital C.
So then we go over to 5th grade. It's going to take a solar system. A, identify that the Earth rotates once every
I think we
24
should
hours.
fix it.
Sorry.
You think?
I think we should get rid of it. What fifth grader doesn't know that the earth rotates once every 24 hours?
It's the word rotate instead of,
Who rotate at third grade and get over it?
Yeah, I'm with you there.
It's taught in third grade, I can tell you that.
That it
Because
rotates?
how are they gonna understand the 24-hour cycle if they don't,
Then we need to bold rotates, because otherwise,
that it rotates for that to happen?
if the concept is that we want them to know rotate, we may want to reword that.
Is the rotate revolve
No.
issue there? Okay.
No, and that's where they get off in.
This is
That's
another
where it's
misconception.
confused, yes.
That
Revolve and
Revolve
rotate is a huge
And I'm
misconception.
telling
Yeah.
you, they still didn't know it by sixth grade.
And I can tell you, we can do,
How about if we said, identify that the earth rotates on its axis once every 24 hours?
And
Yeah,
they
that's-
I like
understand
that.
access, they, I mean.
We're talking about 5th grade, right?
Yes.
yes, ma'am. Lower please.
Yes, rotates on its axis.
That is really low case.
Yeah,
It's teeny kids.
The teen case.
What is on here too?
What do we call that?
I call it littler.
Little
I call it littler lowercase
little,
a.
little.
oh,
Oh, I've been here way too.
they are shrinking, not our
They are
eyes.
shrinking.
That's called huge readers.
Yes. Oh my word, I feel like we had gone down Olympus and we started to say.
My husband has like 6 pairs all over the
I
house.
have them everywhere.
So we're good with that once we made that?
Yeah, but it's not dry, Eric.
Really good sense, though.
Well, we're probably gonna trash this whole document before it's done anyways.
Well, no, I'll get you the over,
But we will be very familiar with them. when we
Yeah,
get
that's
done.
right.
That's right.
We'll know the ins and outs.
And I
That's
know
already
more
not me, but I'm
science.
already starting. I had to write my,
Yeah.
check the STEAM certified,
Oh,
and so I just picked one of the first 2 strands we did, and like knock this dude out, I got the first page done in like 20 minutes, I got 3 more pages, but there's more in depth detail. I'm like this thing, I don't know where all this is.
we do look at our national grant, but it does skip the A's down. So look at the word again.
Well, if you do not use Jan, and I'll get you her name. Do not use her as your certifying agent because she is horrible. I don't mean horrible, I can't I can't use the word horrible, but in my estimation, she was the worst speaker I've ever listened to in my life.
Thank
Personal,
you. We'll talk,
personal.
we'll talk more.
And he has been on this committee for 5 days.
It's just not, we didn't get the first time either.
Okay, are we on B? We got axis. All right, relate changes in.
Relate changes in the length and position of of a shadow to time of day and the apparent position of the sun in the sky as determined by Earth's rotation.
Oh, I think I found it.
Is that when you observe the shorter shadow at the certain time of the
Yeah,
day
the
and the
ball
longer
What's
shadow?
the difference in what we're doing here and what we're doing in 3rd grade? I guess here we're relating it to the rotation of the earth that's creating that change in the shadow. Well, in 3rd grade, they're just recognizing that the shadow
That it
changes.
changes.
Kind of like what we
Changes
did
in the
with
length.
the lit portion of the moon in the previous
Yeah.
one, I think.
It's a build up onto
So
that.
in 3rd grade, you're just noticing the phenomenon, in
Of the
fifth
change.
grade, you're actually identifying why.
Exactly.
What's causing?
So-
Do we need to make that more clear then?
Yes.
Well, and I think with my suggestion, let's see, I think for B, if we start with the rotation, like as if this is the cause of it, right? So, let's see, so something like, describe that the rotation, or the rotation of Earth about its axis causes, the,
How about we say describe the relationship between the Earth's rotation and the length and position of a shadow to the time of day and apparent position of the sun in
well, I
the
guess
sky.
instead of
And the
relationship, I'm basically
Changes,
saying
do you
cause
think
and
that
effect.
changes?
Say that again.
Instead of relationship, I'm saying cause and effect. So it's the,
Okay.
it's the rotation
So
that
explain the
causes.
cause.
Yeah,
The
the
cause.
rotation of Earth explains the
Is the
cause,
cause.
or is the cause, right, of changing shadows. To whatever. You know, words with it.
So demonstrate.
No.
No.
Describe.
Black about 40 years old.
You're trying to write what you're trying to say.
Explain
I know.
you don't like explain the relationship?
I'm
No,
just
I'm
thinking,
not.
I'm just,
I want changes in there.
I'm just thinking that,
I'll leave that word.
well, I'm just thinking
Okay.
that the fact that, what I think they're trying to say here, I think would be strengthened by saying it's the rotation that causes the changes in the length of the shadow.
Yes.
But I think that's what they're trying to
That's
say.
the essence of it, is it
That's
not?
the essence,
Yeah.
so they're saving the essence to the end. And I'm saying
Right.
let's put the essence.
So let's flip it and put Earth's rotation first.
Yep.
So explain,
Or explain.
describe,
How the Earth's
Write it out.
yeah,
Earth's
describe how the Earth's rotation affects
Uh-huh. The length and position.
change.
Yes, sorry, forgot that.
Rotation affects the change in
Yes.
in the length and position of a shadow to the time of day and apparent position of the sun in the sky.
I like that.
No. Let's get that up there and see if something's.
I lost you on the last about 4 words.
Describe how the Earth's rotation affects the change in the, and then you're just gonna use the words that are already there.
FX, FX,
Apex.
A,
Right?
A,
Is that right?
Right,
Should be.
Because it's doing it.
right.
To it. It's the same as what's already there.
Affect
Okay.
the
The change position of the shadow to the time of day and apparent position of the sun.
So
Okay,
it's right up here.
no, it's not. Say that again?
Read it again.
Describe how the Earth's rotation affects the change in the
Hold on,
length
hold on. Affects the change.
Affect.
and
Affects.
apex
Affects the change.
Change.
Change, but
in the, and then it's what's already up there.
In the length
in the
and
length.
position
In
of
the
the,
position of a shadow
Of a shadow.
to the time of
to
day.
the time of day.
When you-
To the time
I
of
don't
day.
even think you need the last phrase. Affect.
No,
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
too.
stop it dead.
because
Yeah,
it's
right.
gonna,
It gets it.
Yeah, and you can kind of mix.
Of a shadow, yeah. It
So-
affects the length of change, it affects the length and position of a shadow, period.
So,
Describe how the Earth's rotation affects the change in the length and position of a shadow, period.
what about the part about the apparent position of the sun?
Well, I
in the
think,
sky?
I was gonna
I
say,
think we ought to go back to that when we talk about, we see the sky appears, the sun appears to move.
well, I think we need, that might be something we need to play out in the third column, because what do you think they mean by apparent? I mean, I know that at a very high level, apparent is the right word, but I don't think at the 5th grade level, that they need to make the distinction. The sun is where it appears to be. So-
Well,
I
look
think
at
what they're
C.
wanting is that when we say describe how the Earth's rotation
Yeah.
implies that the sun is moving and changing positions, it's not really that we are, changing positions in the sky, it implies that. But in this standard, that the way they have it written now, it's explicitly said that describe how the Earth's rotation, and then we, in parentheses, we could put change of sun's position in the sky, because really the Earth's rotation is what's causing that change in the
I
sun's
know, but I
position.
guess what I'm saying is that word apparent. Right? Does the word apparent even need to be there?
I thought we took that out.
Yeah, I did
We
too.
took all of that out.
Yeah.
Because
I
read
think we
C
got
is
that shadow with a period.
Yeah.
And now read C.
Me?
Oh, I see.
Well, I'm just.
Now you're talking about when they, the apparent motion, so now you've moved to, now it's in
Okay,
C.
that's apparent, that's okay to
Yeah.
have apparent to see. Right?
Because it appears to be
Right,
having
that's right.
motion.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Are we in C now?
Well, I was just saying.
They
if we
moved
were
down to
looking-
look at it, see its
Oh.
It was
implication.
kind of a continuation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in C.
All right, so now it seems to make sense.
Crystal clear.
Okay, I think we're moving on to third grade.
Now you're in your leave C as is, and so that you agree on the changes for 6.2
Yes.
C, big
Yeah,
C.
C now makes sense.
Okay,
Uppercase C.
You're not gonna let me live that.
I'm just gonna try to get it in my head because it's just like the hot dog hamburger. bowl.
Same concept.
My art teacher appreciates it tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
She don't want you to say that,
Linear,
oh, then,
horizontal. And it makes total sense after she asked us to quit doing it.
not vertical anymore?
Vertical, I said vertical and horizontal, I'm sorry.
And honestly, if you're work with a computer teacher, they want you to say landscape portrait.
they do.
That's true.
I think you need the word
They
that.
would know.
But nowhere does it say,
Like that.
Hot dog.
Hot dog or hamburger.
I look for them in kindergarten teachers.
like, you're no longer allowed to use hot dog.
Like this.
Eric said so.
That's it.
No, she just made that request and it makes total
Sure,
sense.
sure.
If we were trying to get academic language, trying to get it.
There you go.
So why not cover
Very
all
simple.
areas?
I think it makes,
Because they picked it up, my kids this year, so they haven't said it at all. It's no question, I say, fold it horizontally, they fold it horizontally, they say fold it vertically, they fold it vertically.
I think since it keeps.
We just made it easier.
What if any changes need to be made to third grade?
To what?
Third
Third
grade,
grade, we're trying to-
bringing us back.
I'm good with A and B.
I'm gonna do the entire thing.
I think it should be this.
That was what was going through my mind, like, so Missouri standards, Missouri standards.
Maybe just take out the word direction, take out the word position, and just say direction without parentheses. The length and direction of shadows. Would be
Makes some position.
Yeah, I don't know why it needs.
It's hard over here.
That's fine. Everybody go to C? Thumbs up?
No.
No?
I'm still thinking about lower.
Woo, good catch. That was almost an attention.
I think she did intention.
Yeah, I do too, I think
I
she
did,
did.
I did catch myself.
I mean, low. What are you thinking?
and then in C,
This room.
I would say, C, if we say the word
Direction.
direction instead of position. Let's see.
Yes.
Just a piece of the direction.
Wait.
This guy changed the length. The direction doesn't change the length, it's the position.
Right, I was gonna say, that's not right for C.
That's what I'm saying.
So the position in the sky changes the position and direction, the length and direction.
Length and direction of shadows.
So say.
Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah.
Yeah,
bottom.
sun's
Yeah.
position.
Oh,
There's
okay.
two positions.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, wait,
That
at
makes
the beginning of that,
That's
that's
right,
not
our
work.
position is right for sun,
Okay,
but direction of shadows, yeah. That's good.
So the bottom part is length and direction.
Now.
Yes, now,
Yeah, I'm 100% agreement.
me too.
Would you read, just out of clarity, would you read E again for me?
Describe the changes in length and direction of shadows from morning and midday to afternoon.
Okay, and then now C.
Describe how some position in the sky changes the length and direction of shadows.
So shadows have direction, not position.
Okay.
The sun has position.
Well, they do kind of have position, but, yeah.
Yeah, position, bottom, direction, yeah. It's linear.
But, yeah, it's,
So kindergarten,
Everybody's good with C? That's a thumbs up now? Okay. Now we're on to A. Observe and describe the characteristics of the 4 seasons as they cycle through the year.
That's very adequate, yeah.
Well, but wait, don't we have, I mean, isn't that somewhere else, or is that maybe a different grade? Describe it, because
Let's go to this
well, they're talking, if they're just talking about, see, like, what I'm getting at is this whole big idea is about the positions of everything. So so kindergarten A doesn't say anything about the sun,
one. The sun.
right? It just says the 4 seasons, and I thought we
No.
done that.
Well, the
They-
4
they
seasons
talk
though
about
are,
the sun early.
well, but the 4 seasons are created by our approximation and our
The position.
position to the
Position
sun.
of the earth is
Not the position.
like that.
Well, sure, it's the position of the earth to the sun.
So what do you mean?
What do you mean what I mean?
You mean, is it closer in winter and further in summer?
Actually, we're closer.
Okay, I just want, yeah.
So,
So,
I mean, it's your position, and it depends on where the axis, where you're sitting.
and that's what so, all I'm saying is that kindergarten doesn't say anything about the sun.
and I think it's because what they're wanting them to, at this particular standard, is just to notice as kindergartners that it's not summertime all the time. And then we're going to
Okay.
progress into the concept of why is that? Right now, we just want them to recognize that it's not the same.
Okay.
Right.
Unless you live in an area where it is.
And we also want them to recognize that seasons does not mean deer, turkey. And you think I'm joking, but in our area,
Our season is rifle, gun,
Yeah.
bow,
yeah, there you go.
Football, baseball,
Yeah, I mean, we laugh, but think about that. At kindergarten level.
I guess we're on to strand 7.
I gave an IQ test once, to a middle school student, and I asked the seasons, and he gave me deer, turkey. He has a PhD in like, forest.
There you go. Makes sense, doesn't it? Well, baseball season's over. I mean, the World Series for the Cardinal fans. Sorry, not you Royal
No, not
fans.
the superior team.
No, let's not start comparing stats now. Just one back here.
Hey, you don't live in the past, baby.
I am happy to support the Royals now. It's like, you know,
I'm cheering them on down. Wasn't our year.
They were on strand 7, guys.
All right, you only had, okay, good deal.
okay, but just let me, with Bob for just a second, we don't want to talk about gravity and force of attraction, opposites in the solar system anywhere up through 50.
Yeah, it really never said anything.
No,
about
we
that,
don't.
did it?
Yeah,
So-
it said that in the
And
strand.
the strand.
But
No, that's K-12 strand title.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
See,
going to
okay.
move there.
Bob, I should warn you before we have this conversation that I had it once, like on the 3rd day.
You mean while I was here?
About introducing the concept of gravity, because we know it's a misconception and that it's a very abstract idea. So,
It is introduced
Yeah,
in force of motion.
yes, and that's when,
In strand 2, force of motion.
that's where I brought this up.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you still feel strongly enough about it that we need to put it in
That's
here?
why I was,
Well, I think you're probably right, that it's probably at 6 through 12, now they start to say, the reason we're seeing all this is because of gravity. So here in 5th, we're saying, the
Okay.
reason we're seeing
I just
gravity.
wanted to make sure we're,
patterns,
as
yeah.
far as,
But now the reason for that is because,
Right.
I didn't hear.
We're not
that makes-
explaining
That
it
makes
yet.
sense, okay, well, I bet you.
I'm just saying, if you're bigger.
I have the middle school film.
That's good.
I just knew that he and I are both
Excellent.
getting.
So do you feel better
Yeah.
there now? Okay.
Thanks for reminding me, that was good. Fine.
Okay, so that's the 7.1 capital A 5th grade lowercase a.
I just want to give a caution here. Typically, strand 7 and 8 kind of get left out.
Yes, I've heard that.
And when you look at many of the data statewide, sun-speed inquiry is a deficit.
Well, and GSS is huge, it's
Okay.
really very
Can
important.
I make a suggestion that they were go through it like we're going, but then when we reformat, or I just
It
wanna
needs
go
to
and
be
do these,
They
basically
should
go
be
away and go
woven
into,
yes.
okay.
I'm sorry, what-
And I think
what-
we already have.
Like strand 7 and 8, we basically, when we're
Oh,
done with a finished product, they will not be separate.
That will be separate
In
strands, they'll be integrated.
woven into the internet.
Sure.
Well, that's why
Okay,
each
so
one of
as
these
long
is
as we
covered
go
sequence.
through that with this in mind.
Well, each one of these, I'm sure the sequence says all units. You look at the sequence, no matter what.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, but I wouldn't spend a ton of time wordsmithing this portion
that's-
of
that's
it
what I'm
because
Oh, I see.
they're gonna be woven into, my goal would be to have these in with the.
Where they go in
And
each.
see, that would probably make us more aligned with the 6 to 12, because if they're using NGSS, that's what the GSS does.
So where we said design a, investigate
Right.
Right,
a,
that's
these
part of
should be
what-
woven into
yeah.
them.
Okay. And model.
Come back to fair test, make suggestions of reasonable improvements.
And we may need to bump some more up to include them all.
That's what I'm saying, we just might need to take these and see where we need to
Oh, okay,
add them
yeah.
in the first.
So I guess the
Yeah,
question
I'm
is,
looking at it.
do
There's a lot of
we,
stuff that's not in any way integrated.
well, so when we get to these two, do we go through and wordsmith them? Or do we start figuring out what our organizational scheme is? And then if we're already gonna weave them in, say these to weave in until later.
That's
Well,
what,
maybe the thing to do is to sort of, with strand 7, let's get a handle on the big picture. Like, in other words, and I think too, like, the part I don't really know is developmentally speaking, K through 5, right? I mean, so we wanna talk about, we want them to develop models at some point, but maybe that's not a kindergarten thing, right? So I guess that's what I'm hoping. You know, like, is there a progression?
Well, my progression, like, I guess in my brain, the progression is that at K2, they learn how to use the tools and they observe, a lot of observing.
Observe, right.
And at 3-5, it's more of conducting actual fair tests. So they're not just observing, but they're designing / with a lot of teacher help experiments with independent, dependent variables and that kind of thing. So at K2, they're maybe identifying independent, dependent variables, but at 3-5, they're gonna tell you what they want them to be
And how they relate.
and how they relate and what their prediction is as far as what's gonna happen.
I think the scientific inquiry, it looks to me like could almost be our third column.
It should be, I mean, well, in our
Could almost
standards,
be mostly our third column.
Right.
Because I'm looking, for example, on B, under strand 7,
Capital B.
capital B, under 1, strand 7, 5th grade C, use a variety of tools and equipment to gather data. And it mentions some that we talked about.
some of these are already woven
You
in,
know,
right?
so, to me, why have this whole extra strand when
it
those
first
could be
is
incorporated
That's
in
right.
on the engineering and the column 3?
But I would rather have these not in column 3,
Thank you.
but in
That's where I-
tandem
Yeah,
with
thank you.
wherever they
That's
belong with the
exactly
other
where I'm going.
standards.
Because column 3 is optional.
Because,
Right.
right, and we don't know that we're gonna
You
get it
don't
done.
need that to be
Alright, we're
optional.
on the same page. Good.
I agree, but I just,
Yeah, but you're right, we need to weave them with where it makes sense to weave them in the content that
right,
we've already.
and then have a whole strand that doesn't have to be read or dealt with by the teachers.
I agree with what you're saying. I think that, just as a counterpoint, you know, like I said, one of the criticisms of the NDSS was that the writers said, this standard should go with this process. And I think that they were criticized by the AAT about that, so Association of Physics Teachers. So I think that, I don't know, somehow we might say, I mean, in that sense, I like the third column in the sense that we say, you might do this inquiry, you might do this,
Right.
you might do this process skill and this other one, but do a process.
You know, I would agree with you to a certain point, but then there are certain cases where
Some make sense.
it makes total sense to do that processing skill with that content. Like we said on some of these, compare and contrast is the perfect,
Right,
this is
that's
the
right.
perfect process to do with this. So if it's one of those, then I think that we should, I feel comfortable saying,
I do too.
that's the best way to do it. But if there's one that's, there are multiple options, then I would say don't put one down.
Well, I guess, we've been thinking, and I'm just kind of talking out loud, we were thinking in terms of, the fact that, well, it might be different in the urban setting versus in the rural setting. That maybe in the rural setting, they can actually go out and see this stuff, whereas in an urban setting, they really kind of have to just do a simulation. You know what I mean? Some, just kind of talking in general. So for us to say, oh, well, this is perfectly, this is one where they're actually going to be able to do this. Well, we got to remember it's a
Right.
state, it's diverse.
Right.
So I can see it happening, right? In times where we have to just be sensitive to the fact that there's very big differences across the state.
Sir, my kids don't know about turkey.
Yeah, right. Right.
Not at all.
Well, the street lights, even the ability to see
Yeah, the stars.
The
That's
stars
right. Yeah.
could be
That's right.
Very tough.
That's right.
So, there's a couple different avenues that we could take. We could say, put this on the back burner, figure out what the big picture is. We could read over it and discuss it by uppercase letter so that we have a concept of what's included in here. Because I feel like we have a good handle on the content portion, but I don't know that I'm embedded and ingrained in this portion of it. And then we would have it in the back of our mind when we decide what our big picture is and how we could embed it in these. Or we can wordsmith it.
I think,
Yeah, I don't think we need to go letter by letter.
Yeah.
I think, but to get a good idea of what is here, I know I need that personally.
Yeah.
So what process would we like to use to do that?
Let's go through and just read them. So we'll go through and just.
Yeah, I'm a layperson,
Yeah, 'cause it would be
so
good
I
to
think
discuss,
these
too.
three, the uppercase letters, for me would help to start with that, to get a background. Yeah, we'll start with that.
Okay.
Well,
And then I can review the grade level, the GLE.
And honestly, a lot of them are the same from grade level to
Right,
grade
right.
level.
Just getting more
They're
comprehensive.
very repetitive, the general.
And just in going through the previous 6 strands, that's, I was getting, that we were putting some of that in there
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah. So we're gonna go through strand 7, just 7, right? Or do we
Just
want
one.
to take them one strand at a time? Okay.
We're going to do BA. I can make that one else for you, but I'm certain how much it's from this head.
No, I just, you guys
I do right here.
I used to sit in this chair, I don't sit this long ever.
Well, do you want to, we'll just read them to
I was
ourselves.
gonna say, to me, it's better to read
So
side.
I have liquid wells that I don't even think they work faster.
There's a couple of them that is.
Okay.
You still do that? Still large enough for you?
Well, we're looking at the.
We're reading the concept in the first column.
Yeah,
We're
you're,
reading this.
you're just reading the 7-1, big A, and all across grade levels.
No.
No, we're just reading scientific inquiry includes the ability of
Okay.
students to.
Oh, just,
We're just
okay,
reading
you're
the
concept.
capital letters.
The rest of it is pretty much the same.
There's not a lot. Now, you know, I see they told you strand 7's always left off, but see the kids can't measure badly.
It's always intended
And it should never have been separate.
never intended to be separate.
But I know what happens, they start here on page 1. And it's May, sorry.
I mean,
If it was integrated.
It should have been all along.
Yeah, if this were made into the last, we would already have this.
You would have. And that was
The implied intent, but it did not.
Yeah. Because there are some differences in the verbs and the I'm
I
trying
mean,
to.
kindergarten through fifth.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely, I mean, it changes about third grade. It starts changing. Changes from fair test, or conduct a simple investigation, to plan and conduct a fair test and question.
Looking at, when do we make the transition from qualitative, because it's basically qualitative versus
Qualitative
quantitative.
and quantitative.
Yeah, you're right,
It's in-
third grade starts quantitative.
It starts
In
at
this one.
okay.
Capital C.
In A, B, or C?
B,
Capital C, I see.
Okay,
capital B is
Yeah.
got
okay, good.
qualitative and quantitative observations as well.
And it starts at third grade,
In
Yes.
capital C it does,
okay.
but in capital D, capital B.
It never does it.
qualitative.
So that was a question that I had.
But it doesn't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do we ever want to do anything quantitative?
I think so.
I think they'd already said that we were doing that.
And actually in the NGS, in this, it starts qualitative, with that.
It starts quantitative.
Quantitative,
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't be, I mean,
because you could do it
that's
at
true.
that simplistic level.
Yes.
That's what's on the driver's sheet that you have.
Oh, you messed up my document.
Oh, gosh.
And
Did I?
you lost half of it.
Where did I do it?
I don't know.
Oh, I just didn't get the thing.
You did the same thing.
Yeah, don't worry about it, it's not mine, it's okay.
One or two. Okay, so you flip that over. Okay, we're back.
I can make it mess.
Especially sitting in that close proximity.
Oh, don't give her more than this.
Yeah, it's just clipped, it's not stapled.
That's just a disaster. The good thing the numbers, the papers are number, I'd be in trouble. They did that just for you.
I think we have just what I've read, I think the direction we're heading, we've got a pretty good handle on most of this, but I do think we need to. We all know, I've said this from the very beginning, I'm big on quantitative measurements.
So the part that I don't see us having in stream 7 is the engineering component. The concept that you design a solution, you try it out, and then you evaluate if it worked or not, and you go back and tweak it.
I guess Joanne found one spot.
C,
There's this one spot that does.
One A, 1A, no, capital A, 5th grade D. So, Mr. Joanne pointed this out, make suggestions for reasonable improvements or extensions of a fair test. So,
I think that goes, I think that's in
That-
C, C, uppercase C and lowercase c, in 3rd grade through 5th.
But a fair test is not a
It doesn't
solution.
say fair test, it says evaluate the reasonableness of the
from an explanation.
explanation.
Where
Yeah, but
Analyze
that's-
whether evidence supports the proposed explanation. They all.
But that feels like science more than engineering. What I'm saying is capital, so it's 7-1, capital A, 5th grade lowercase d, that feels like engineering.
But that's a fair test.
But
And a fair test is not
Improvements.
a solution.
I'm looking at improvements.
I know, but
Improvements.
I'm saying it's improvements or extensions of a fair test, and a fair test is not a solution. It's an independent variable, dependent variable, testable question, controlled experiment, and not, engineering isn't always about a controlled experiment. Am I off track?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm focusing on the word improvement
Absolutely.
right now. So what would, so.
We're saying the same thing. We're saying that we need to make sure engineering's in here, and I don't think it's in here strong enough.
Right.
It doesn't mention it briefly there, but I don't even think it's there. I mean, I think we've got to include it.
Well, I wonder if it's now strand 8 is.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go through strand 8.
Yeah, we are.
And that might be, well, and essentially it's gonna be, 7 and 8 are gonna be parallel now, right? Because of NGSS, it's gonna be parallel.
Here's the problem with 8 is, yeah, let's just read through
I'm
it.
just, because it says technology and use, to me that's something that's.
So here, I kind of already gone through 8 too, and I think 8 kind of goes away as a separate strand, and we just go back and make sure.
The more I look at this, the more I don't see a way that we get away from stumbling into the same thing that, next gen is being criticized for.
Okay.
And honestly, if I had to choose which trap to be in, I'd rather err on the side of the error.
I would too, because otherwise it's not gonna get done.
And that's my ultimate
Yeah,
fear, is if we just kind of leave it out there.
Yeah, but I'm thinking we don't leave it as a separate strand, because like she just said to me,
No, that's what we're,
That's
that's
right.
what
Yeah.
she's saying. It needs to be
she
well
just
done
saw
and
that she had not
identified.
seen in 18 years of teaching. This is
Yeah.
strand 8.
Right.
I'm like, yep. That's what
Yeah,
they
it's
do
been
now.
there for, yeah.
Because when they wrote the original lease, they tried to do what we're talking about doing, but they left it as a separate strand and assumed that teachers would integrate it all.
Right.
But that's not
We were encouraged to not make that kind of change.
Well, I think,
I don't blame you, yeah, because it's a timeline of
I
continuum,
think
and
one,
that's where you work.
one possible problem is science fair projects, right? Because then they can say, oh, well, we do strand 8 one time a year.
Right.
Science fair project. they do strand cell, or sorry, strand cell.
Or Science Olympiad, or whatever.
Whatever,
you
so,
want to
so
call
it's
it.
kind of like, well, now we can use that to do all of our strand cell and stuff. And of course, do it wrong.
Tell us how you really feel.
How about, that didn't sound very wrong.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if there's a.
No, you're fine. I had my uppercase, lowercase bits.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, don't we,
Oh, okay, okay.
If there's a place opposite of heaven for me, it'd be great at science fair projects. That's what it'd be like for all eternity.
Do I get a copy of the kids while I do it? Because that's the thing.
Yeah.
My version of that would be having to construct the science. You're just gonna keep building this
Yeah,
and
but it's
building
different,
this.
I know science very well, so agreeing them, I'm going to do it.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Just a lot of times,
I mean, it's amazing what fourth grade girls
Being able
no, I think what he's describing though is,
Which is true with the
you
science.
stumble across a lot of math,
You do a fair
science,
test.
you know,
Well, I mean,
Creativity,
just
a lot
makes
of
it through.
It is.
but you know, it's just like,
That's
you know,
not-
here's what the Montana Science Fair tells you to do. So just to make it.
I agree with you.
Yes, the engineering answer is that, just to let them be creative, but then you have all the components that you need to. And that's
For the
okay.
science fair
I
project.
mean, I'll never forget, 4 years ago, you know, one of the things I instituted at board meetings is we have scholar superstars. So all our board meetings, you know, you got 15,000 kids, one of them's just been amazing sometime in the past month. So, you know, we'll have 2, 3, 4, 5 at every board meeting. And here's what they did, and they'll tell us a little bit more. It's fabulous. I think it's 3 or 4 years ago, to bring forth this, she was a 6th grader. And her science fair project was, maybe I thought it was fabulous. I mean, I thought it was awesome. But it gives rise to what you described. Her science fair project was the battle of the sexes, who's smarter, boys, girls. And then she, you know, obviously had her hypothesis about who was going to be smarter, and she constructed, you know, a science fair project around this. The results, you know, were very conclusive.
In her favor.
The girls were clearly smarter than boys across all her different measures. And blah, blah, blah.
And see, and again, I'm laughing too, right? I'm laughing too, but the fact that the science fair project, the people running it said you gotta have a hypothesis. There's one where there is no hypothesis. It's not there. And yet she had to create one. So she had to invent one that's not really what a hypothesis is. But it's because the guidelines said, well, you gotta have a hypothesis.
I can hypothesize
Oh, you can
that
never
women would be
hypothesize that.
smarter than men.
Oh, I think about that. Take that for a fact.
Fundamentally speaking, that's not what a hypothesis is.
It has an independent variable and an dependent variable.
It's a proposed explanation for something that's been observed already. So it's not a guess.
It's an educated guess.
No, it's not.
It is.
Ooh, we have a different.
It was hilarious, is what it was.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, well, and you could, like, powerful personality. Like, if
Right.
she did this room, she would be running all of us. Like, you know, 6th grade, she'd be running all of it. So, I mean, she didn't even have to say anything more than the title. You already knew where this was going. I mean, it was one of those kind of scenarios.
She had good confidence.
That's awesome.
We have a district in our area that used to do Ruth Goldberg.
Oh, yes.
And the kids would create their, yes, I mean, and so it was some of the, I'm not kidding you, it was some of the coolest stuff I ever looked
But
at.
see, that's not a fair test.
No, it's not.
That's engineering.
It's
That's
engineering.
a component where, so
They
we
took
don't
their
always
ideas and
get to
created.
do that engineering.
Well, I would argue that what the 6th grader did was not fair either. So,
I can understand where that would not be fair.
See, for me, the Rube Goldberg is trial and error.
Which to me is engineering.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's solving
it's more
it,
engineering
it's
than science.
analyzing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in a school once where, well, we've done Rube Goldberg every year. Wow, for 5 weeks, they didn't do anything else in physics class.
But that
And I'm like, but all they're learning is basically trial and error. That's not how science works, so I'm not gonna do it.
Well, that's how science works, trial and error.
See it?
That's how science works, trial and error. You gotta try it. Unless you're just,
There's a piece of
unless you're
that.
rehashing everyone else's information.
I think that is a
In
part
order
of
to discover,
how
you have to trial and error.
Creativity.
Especially
That'd be
in
before you.
I just,
Before you attempt to make you want to slice
do
your oil.
observations and you look for patterns.
only if there's observations to make. What if you're dealing with something that's never been observed before?
Like what?
Like,
Hey,
life
never been
at
observed
thermal
before.
vents, biological life in thermal vents. What will they do when they reach their surface?
So biological life in thermal vents.
On the bottom of the ocean floor?
Right, so before they were observed, we would have never even believed that we were never
Right.
expected to be down here.
Right,
And then we observed them.
but that's still part of science.
Right.
I haven't observed them at the surface, but I can predict what I think will happen based on their biological features.
Oh, when you bring them to the surface.
Right, I
Oh,
mean, if
see.
I move them to a different place, I haven't observed what's gonna happen to them. I'm gonna predict what I think is gonna happen to them based on background knowledge, but it's not based on having watched it before or read in a book about it before. To me, that's still science.
And my view from early childhood education is sink and float, build a boat that will float.
Right.
Out of the materials that are on this table, so construct, and build a boat, and we've done that with foil, we've done it with
Yeah.
paper, we've done it with paper, and then after you do that, then why did this sink? How can you do it better? What can you do? Just as something simple as
And
that.
that's what I'm saying, so what you're getting at is an explanation for an observation. Right? They've made a couple observations, they tried this one, it didn't work, they tried this one, it didn't work, they tried this one. Now they want to try to come up with an explanation for it.
But at first, they're gonna think that they build it to be successful. They don't know.
And that's not trial and error.
I think that's more the engineering.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just
But
that
it's
they
still a
don't
part of
know.
science.
I guess
Sure it is. Just think it through.
Yeah.
it's analysis, right? You're analyzing, you're asking them to analyze why didn't this work. So I would say, I don't know, I guess to me, trial and error sounds like I think of like when an amoeba is going to travel from point A to point B, and all they do is they keep bumping into the wall and then they move, and so they're just trial and error, and eventually they get through. It's very mindless. Whereas what she's talking about is very mindful. It's analysis, right? At least at some point.
So when Thomas
I was
Edison
going to say, just
looked
Thomas Edison. So
at the metal that was gonna go in the middle of his light bulb, do you think he just randomly
He
picked
didn't even
metals
use
and
metals
just
all
kept
the time.
trying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but did he just randomly pick materials, or do you think he based it on background information about the characteristics and
Previous
properties of those metals?
Yeah,
Or
that's-
materials,
that's-
whatever it is.
I would think my boat students would have done that.
I would agree
They think
too.
this might float because
They've been in the
see
swim
it, right.
pool,
Right.
they've
Basing it on
tried
prior
things.
knowledge.
And from a lot of early childhood teaching, though, we have to create those experiences.
Because they
for
haven't
them,
done
Because
it.
they don't
They
come
haven't.
to us with
Exactly.
any experience.
Exactly.
So it takes on a whole other perspective.
So what are we arguing?
I'm not real sure.
I don't think you're arguing anything, you're just got off on.
A discussion? Okay.
Yeah, it's a good philosophical discussion.
I think
How about the difference between
engineering.
engineering
Yeah, that's
and,
right.
and whether or not you have trial and error, creativity, or do you, is it based on observation? Or
Well,
is
here's the
there
part. For science, you have to have trial and error and observation before you can do a fair test. So like if I have kids that are, you want them to predict how carpet is gonna affect how the friction of a car or going down a ramp, before they can make a prediction, they really need to play with the cars and trial and error and see what happens. So a lot of times as teachers, we don't give kids that opportunity of trial and error at the beginning because it's chaotic and it's noisy and we discourage it, but that's really what they need before. So that engineering component almost comes in before we ever start the fair test system, because
Yeah.
the fair test should be a filtering down of everything we learned over here to narrow in on what we really think is gonna work. So Edison probably could have chosen a million things,
Right.
but based on what he had been experiencing, he may have narrowed it down to 100 that he was gonna try, or whatever.
Right.
So I think they're both components in science.
Well, and I agree that, like you said too, the experiential part.
Right,
at
you have
that
to build
young
that
level
back.
is very important.
So how do we define engineering?
We are.
I think NGSS does a pretty good job of that. And I think if I remember, I could call it up here, but I think if I remember, it's basically that engineering is the purposeful redesign, or the purposeful design of, at least it has environment.
Well, they have the engineering practices.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, how do they define that
How do
word
they define
engineering?
engineering? So that you or I, as an elementary teacher, can understand engineering.
It's the practice vocabulary.
Design, creation, and use of
Oh, I haven't.
Define and
machines, and
Yeah, because technology.
I'm just thinking
No,
that
you're
might
right.
be an important
Yeah, you
Yeah,
get
vocabulary.
vocabulary
But
word.
in technology and engineering, they go together in NGSS, and I like the way they put them together.
Yes.
I'm not sure that doesn't need to be in this document
Right.
as a
so the
precursor.
design,
I think I got it right.
creation, and use of technology is all the problem.
Okay, here we go.
Got
All
it?
right, I got, yeah, this is an engineering design in NGSS, and it's in Appendix I. And I've gone through and I've highlighted this here, so. Okay, let me do technology first. So it says, technology describes all the ways that people have modified the natural world to meet their needs and wants. So, for instance, technology includes wall board. Right. It's not just computers. That's
Which
the big
goes back
idea.
to what Perry said a few
It
meetings
includes the
ago.
wheel.
Look, I'm just saying, the wheel,
Right.
also the machine,
Yeah,
also
all
the
of it.
machine,
Right.
or technology.
Right.
I really,
You need to go? You want more on your program?
Should have brought bigger pills.
How many did you take?
I'm gonna take two.
Take two more. You can take up to
Here,
four.
let me get you the liquid gel.
Yeah, she got something on her.
Yeah.
It's,
I've
I
got
actually got
peppermint
a
oil to put on your temples.
degenerating disc in my neck,
Um,
and sitting in this chair,
Well, stand up.
so
Why not?
it's
Why?
causing me, the parent chef is causing me to,
do what you need to do.
That's why I wander around.
get the herb things there.
So what are we doing?
Well, I was still looking for.
I just have a question, do we need to have somewhere in this document a clarification of technology and engineering?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And like I said, now unfortunately, the way they've written this appendix, it's not as clean as figure out what their definition of engineering is. But they say what it isn't. They say there's a big misconception out there, and that is that engineering is not just applied science.
Is it right again?
Engineering design is not just applied science.
I do too.
But then I'm
But
not,
other than
now what is it? Okay, it's not that, but so what is it? I mean, it's not quite clear.
It's like a
Although I guess the idea.
Hey, no, but I think that that is a misconception that we have about engineering, and that it's only applied. It's a
Applied science.
Yeah, applied science.
Yeah,
I think of engineering as an application.
it's, yeah, but I think if I remember right, they're not just focusing on science, it might mean it's a human endeavor too. See, because technology talks about modifying the natural world, right?
Right, and I think of engineering as designing, creating, using technology to solve a problem.
So this
Okay,
is what
you-
they call, did you find the eight
Well,
copies?
they go on to the next paragraph, let me read this. So the purpose of defining engineering more broadly in the frameworks is to emphasize engineering design practices that all citizens should learn. For example, students are expected to be able to define problems, situations that people wish to change by specifying criteria and constraints for acceptable solutions. So the idea, I think, is why is it not just science? Because it's what problem do you have? Can you come up with some problem?
Absolutely.
Like for instance, I know when I tell my engineering design students, there's been like 140 patents on paper clips since like 1870. And so the idea is where I said, okay, take this paper clip and now play with it, see what happens. So they might say, well, gee, if I try to clip too many papers, it comes up and it skews like this. Okay, well, that's a problem. Or when I try to take the paper clip off to tear the paper, that's a problem. Now, design a solution to it. And 140 people have, and they've gotten patents on it, over the 150. So it's not just science, it's identify, it's problem solving.
Yeah,
It's problem solving.
yeah.
It's broader than just science.
And it's not always a fair test. Sometimes it's just problem solving. It doesn't have to
Identify-
have it in.
identify-
Yeah, we don't have it.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Some people,
That would be, that's fine, that would just as a point of discussion for
Yeah.
you all, is that something that we need to clarify in our, is that something you need to clarify in the document? That purpose,
yeah.
that whole notion.
Well,
What it
I
is.
think it's reasonable to, include, definitions of the things that we're talking about in our glossary. What, the value I get out of this conversation is kind of informing, where are the gaps in strands 1 through 6,
Yeah.
1 through 7,
What you said.
1 through 6. And how much, to what extent do we want to, fill in those gaps with what? And so previously, I would have said, hey, we need to add some more, engineering in these, but, thinking through this conversation, it occurred to me that, some of the times it's not going to be an engineering solution that we're pushing for.
Right.
That's right, yeah.
Design and construct a musical instrument using materials.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out, so where does this go?
Yeah, I actually do that. I've done that with my businesses.
Yeah, our third graders do that.
I'm just trying,
Yeah, that's-
well, it's for second grade.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just trying to figure out where in 1 through 6 does that go?
Yeah, it's
I mean, because it's,
sound.
Sound,
In the sound unit.
Well, it's the end of the sound unit.
Yeah.
So when you look at, we go to second grade, I think it's already there.
Yeah.
So second grade, the end of the sound one on second grade is, describe, describe how you change the loudness of the sound. And describe, so no, it's not there. But that's what needs to be there.
Hey, I just saw an example of
Because
that.
they, yeah.
I think it's in the plan.
No, that's what she just told me, the same thing.
Yeah,
It's already-
exactly.
So, yeah, you're right, that's, because they're saying second grade, they can design a musical instrument.
and they can.
Oh, they
And they
totally
can,
can.
and
We
I-
do that in our, that's what we do in our district, is they design musical instruments. So I guess my question is,
Or the tube with the little tissue paper on it.
Do you these something, these practices?
the 8 practices for engineering that are listed there seem to me, like in here, it shows how they kind of parallel with the scientific method.
Yeah.
So there's like, because to me, science is engineering and the scientific process. It's both of them together. It takes them both to get done what needs to happen. So in our groups, we only have strand 7. And strand 8 has a little bit of the engineering in it, but I don't think it has a ton in it. So do we change 8? Do we?
So you're saying our strand 8 doesn't have engineering?
It does, but I don't know that it has all the engineering that we want in it.
all those processes. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we would have to beef strand 8 up. So then my question is, why beef it up if we're already
We're just
going
gonna shove
to
it.
embed it? And if we like the way this is worded, then why rewrite the whole thing
Right.
and not look at what is here and change this? I
okay.
mean, I'm looking at this document, we have to change the leads.
So maybe the easy way to go about this, you have the big wide landscape document that has all the scope and sequences. It
Right.
has it all laid out.
So here's the dilemma that I have, because I kind of started to play with, how does this compare with next generation science centers? And when you look at this, it does not have all those concepts in it.
Right, so, but what I'm thinking is we take that, just go into this
This,
document, and go through strand 7 and strand 8, and just put, so,
Find where it fits in the
in the scope and sequence package, so maybe we come here and say, you know.
So go to, I see
add
what you're saying, go
this
to the end of this.
3.2 A second, B. And just identify for each of these, where in the scope and sequence we think it should plug in.
So then my question is, why do that if we're gonna change the format of that and eliminate some of the concepts where there's overlap in all
Maybe you do
those?
that after we change.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Can we do that? Can we do the final product after we figure out how we want this organized by strand or
That
concept?
goes back to Carrie's thing that we were working on where he laid it out.
But he's laying it out by the little concept, and that, I think that is too narrow. I think
We need
these
to
are
lay it out.
too specific. It needs to be bigger. So then I'm wondering, what does it look like from this year?
What do you mean this is too little? What do you mean?
These are too little.
What do you?
The concepts are too little. Like when you look at all these
The capital
concepts,
A.
Okay.
those are too narrow for us to get a big thing of how energy is dealt with at kindergarten. So to get an idea of how energy is dealt with all the way through
Yeah.
all of these 6 strands, if we
Yeah.
break it down by these concepts, there's too many little chunks. It
Okay.
has to be a bigger strand, a bigger concept that we're plugging this underneath. Like this one is fine, except I don't know that the Glee writers originally wanted these organized by these concepts or these big ideas. This was a suggestion.
Okay.
So I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that, but that's the conversation that we need to start
Well,
having.
I think, one thought, like I mentioned last time, you could actually pull this up, if you just Google search on Atlas for Science Literacy. That's a good model for us to think about. Now, and what you said, energy is a great example, because energy doesn't just live in physics, it lives in
It
biology.
lives all over
it
the
lives in
place, right.
science and
Well, and that's the way most of the big concepts are. There should not be.
Let's see, because I thought about trying to do this, and I apologize for not doing it for like my homework, but I love this thing. And I'm not really sort of a concept web kind of guy, but you can, if you take a look, just scroll down and see.
And do you know how much they use, because I think they use that to come up with the big ideas in this.
Go, view sample, okay, see right here, view sample from Atlas 2.
What is that?
This is the
Okay,
K-12
okay,
framework,
good.
this is the
Oh,
framework.
okay.
So I think when they created the frameworks, they used the Atlas and they used the
Oh, no, I'm sorry, go back to
2061
the screen.
national standards from the 2061 materials.
Okay.
And so under,
There we go, okay.
like
So
under
you,
physical science,
Right.
they have matter and its
I guess
interactions.
in gravity.
They have, and we have matter.
I'm hearing that.
They have forces in motion,
So you see,
energy.
here's what they do in this. So if you scroll down the page. Okay, so again, this is the atlas for, I think you clicked on, was it atoms and molecules or something? So if you scroll to the left, so here's the grade bands. This is K2, and then it says, so well, hold on. So it's like, okay, magnifiers help people see things they could not see without them. So that's a K through 2 thing. But you can see that it branches off from this idea. There's another strand sort of in the 3rd dimension. Galaxies and universe, another one goes to stars, one goes to cell functions, all from this. This thing leads directly to this one. Materials may be composed of parts that are too small to be seen. That's the 3 through 5 concept. Right? So everything here is about molecules and atoms, but you're not going to teach anything about that in K2.
Right.
What you are going to do is there's small things.
Right.
And here's a device that
will
you
help
can see
you.
things that you couldn't see before.
Right.
You know? And then, so it just follows up. You can see this arrow, and this one leads to this concept at 6 through 8. All matter is made of atoms. Now I have to tell them about it. This branches off into all different things, probably including some life science.
Absolutely.
CM, SM, CR,
Right.
they mean something. And then here's the high school. all the way up to nucleus of radioactive isotopes spontaneously decays. Wow, all that, and you can see how it flows. So this is an articulation document.
We can also see the connections.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering though, is that what they did here in the framework with under physical
Yeah, I
science?
liked how
They
that.
have matter, so they have, what they have is matter and its interactions. And under one of them, it's structure and properties of matter, which to me is atoms and molecules. Then they have chemical reactions, and then they have nuclear processes. So that's what we have to decide, are what are gonna be our the big concepts that we're gonna align this through.
The organizing strands.
Yeah. What are but they need to fit in the 8 strands that we have
Yeah.
on our
Oh,
placement.
yeah. Right.
So honestly, these are probably our big ideas, and then we've gotta figure out how we're gonna break those big ideas down.
And these aren't that different, I think, than these.
These are not that different.
That's what we've got in GSS.
NGSS has physical science, which is chemistry and physics. So the first 2 would be in the physical science. The next 2 would be in life science, and the next 2 would be in neuroscience. So we've just split it out
And
twice,
7 is inquiry and 8 is.
which should be embedded through the whole thing,
And the only thing they didn't have was engineering design.
which should be included with strand 7, I think. Well, there is some of it in 8 though, honestly.
That's right.
Here, I just have a question for you. If you look back at the science, and we're talking about incorporating 7 and 8,
Uh-huh,
I mean, obviously, to me, makes total sense,
right.
bringing it in. And what are we gonna do with these 7 and 8 out here on the place?
They stay there.
They
We
just stay there,
can't touch
I mean,
There's still standards.
Yeah, that's right.
There's still standards. We're just combining them
We
together.
I think we're
We
doing
don't have
better
to separate
because we're
them out.
putting them in.
It doesn't say they
I
have.
mean, I understand we're putting them in, I'm just saying, so we're gonna have and make sure I'm just getting this correct, we're going to have them throughout the entire document.
Yes.
And we're gonna still list them out as their own.
We can decide if we want to list them out or
Well, that's
not.
what I'm
I
saying.
think there would be value in listing them out, but they absolutely have to be combined with the stand.
No, I've already, I mean, we've already, that was kind of the day one thing we said that
Yeah.
would happen.
Yeah,
So.
but if we want to list them out, that's fine, but I don't, half dozen and under. My guess is if we list them out, nobody's gonna use them like they do now.
No, and I think, one possibility of what you're saying right now, this is a really good discussion. If you look at the science and engineering practice, and I'm right now looking at the NGSS document, and I think this might be an appendix, yeah, this is an appendix called Science and Engineering Practices, right? So the first practice is called asking questions and defining problems, okay? So they're basically trying to say, well, scientists do this and engineers do this too, and that's what you're
Right.
saying, there's that connection.
Right.
What they've got here on this is they say, okay, here's what that big idea might look like at K to 2 and at 3 to 5. So they have that in bands. And I think that's maybe what you're saying, right?
Right.
So for instance, at K to 2, asking questions and defining problems in K to 2 builds on prior experiences. Wow, prior experiences. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's the
We're
first
saying
one,
the
but
same
already.
thing.
you
Yeah.
right? Builds on prior experiences and progresses the simple descriptive questions that can be tested. So we're already hinting about
Right.
testing at the K to 2 level. And then it gets more sophisticated. So then that would be that's the one. That's the
So
first
the
one.
hard part that I have found in playing, I started trying to play with it.
Yeah.
And the hard part that I have found is trying to turn our document into the format of NGSS.
Yes.
So then, it can be done. If I had enough brain power and enough hours, I can get it done. But I haven't had enough brain power and I haven't had enough hours.
Did he say he was going to do that?
Well, and I'm not talking formatting, I'm talking conceptually shifting
Okay.
our leads, the way we have them organized into next generation. Because you have to decide what are your big strands that, what are the next level below these 8 that you're going to use. Then you have to figure out all of the strands, all of the glees that would go under that next strand, so you have to read through all the glees and cut and paste them so you get a K-12 experience. Then you have to figure out what are gonna be those little breakdowns, you know, like the matter, structure and properties of matter, how you're gonna break all those down. And so it is almost overwhelming to me to try to think about how to do that. Like I said, given enough time, energy, resources, and brain power, I think we can do it. The other idea would be.
It's not a linear progression.
No, you're going to synthesize it. Exactly.
It's a hyperlink. Hyperlink is the solution.
Yeah. So the question is, do we now look at this document after we've looked at our glees and figure out how to take what we liked from the glees and put it into this document since it's already in the format that we like? That's the question. Do we want to synthesize a document like this? I'm holding up NGSS. Do we want to synthesize a document like this from this, our glees? Or do we want to take this document that's already been synthesized and change the wording and the concept to fit these? So we're going to merge this into here instead of trying to take this and create that same document. I think that's the question.
Well, I certainly honor the work that the NGSS folks have done, and the big committee with scientists and science educators. And, you know, I guess personally, I feel like I have the chops. I could have been on that panel, but I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I honor what they've done. Now, on the other hand, I was a reviewer.
Absolutely.
And I think that what I found was there were some errors.
Yeah.
Some actual errors. And I like what you said a little while ago. The fact that, yeah, you'd rather err on the side of, we gotta say something. So I'm okay with that. But
With what?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand what.
With what? Are you okay with it?
he was talking about the fact that, like I keep saying, that one of the criticisms of this has been that they're telling us exactly what process is going to what content. So
you're okay with starting with this document?
Oh, absolutely.
And taking our work that we've done with our glees and merging it into this. So how does everybody else feel?
I don't know if that's, I think that maybe an undertaking that's beyond us.
I think it's a lot simpler than what we're proposing to do, to try to synthesize this into something
Well, that's
like
what I said,
that.
turning this into that.
Is a lot bigger
Is a lot-
project
is a
than
huge
reading
project.
this and taking the parts that we liked out of this and putting them into here.
But I think we've already snipped through that and seen
We
there's
have
lots
not
and
gone
lots.
through this.
Every time we talk about strand, we talk about.
I don't feel like we've gone through this. I think we've referred to it as a
That's what
resource,
it's
but
gonna
I
be referred
don't
to.
think that we've gone through it.
Because
I
at
don't,
the beginning decided we weren't going to use that. That's why we didn't go through it. We said when
we
we
didn't
create.
decide we weren't gonna use this. We decided we were gonna go through the glees before we started. That's what we decided. And then I think we said that after we went through all the glees, that we were gonna decide what format we wanted the glees to be put in, which is the conversation that we're having right now.
Right, but it's not putting it into to the next gen.
So I'm assuming that you don't agree with that process.
And let me ask, what process the secondary ended up doing?
They're doing NGSS.
So
They're
are they
starting
doing that
with
format?
NGSS.
They don't know, they haven't.
Eric, what did you get? You talked to him.
Yeah, I've lunched with them, we had this conversation, they continue to be working from the NGSS document.
Are they making any changes?
They actually don't appear to have gotten that far.
Because they haven't,
They
she
haven't.
came in and said they have not
Yeah, so
done
they
any
haven't.
product at all, so.
I asked them if they had put pen to paper on anything, and they have nothing, they didn't say they didn't yet have anything to show, they're still kind of figuring out, how they're going to eat
They don't have
the
one.
elephant. But what they were clear about is that their starting point is NGSS, that they like, both the content and the format.
So what else everyone
Now,
else
I think it
Now,
makes
that
them
being
down to
said,
how they.
just to add in the primary influencers that they said they were using when I asked today, were California and South Carolina. In addition to NCSS.
Well, I guess one thing, and maybe I'm reading into things, but I think I'm sensing, maybe not a fear, but like the question, did we just waste the first 5 days?
No.
You're not saying, okay, right. That's what
No, because I'm still pretty strong that we need to have a document that is our own.
I'm not saying that that the document we end up is gonna look like this, exactly like this. And I'm not saying that we're not gonna take the glees and put them in here the way we have them worded. I'm just saying that to get this type of user-friendly, teacher-friendly
I think we can produce a
format.
document that's teacher-friendly and user-friendly and not have to use it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna disagree with you. I feel very strongly that NGSS should be used, a component of it should be used. I don't think it's a lockstep thing. I don't think we adopt it the way it is right here. I think we have to merge these two documents. So what I'm asking right now is what does the rest of the group members feel like? Because I think we're gonna disagree on it.
I think we're gonna disagree on it, but we also need to know that we've already discussed and said, I think we already discussed and said that we do not want to.
Then I was not clear that was the discussion that we were having for whatever
We
reason,
spent the
because.
first 2 days talking about this off and on.
Harry, I'm telling you that I am very much in favor of using at least a component of this document.
Okay, what component, I guess?
The formatting and the big idea strands and the engineering piece and performance standards where the performance is interwoven with the concept.
But using our,
I want our concepts and
But that's
ideas
what I'm saying,
to
we
be
can't-
put into here. And
I think
I'm
you got a
gonna tell you
monster
that some
picture
of
in your head that we
these,
could, I don't know how you think.
some
you
of
can-
these are the same as what we have in here.
And we already discussed some of them are way less as well.
I agree, but until we compare, we're not gonna know.
Well, I think every time we've compared it, I mean,
Somebody will print out,
There's-
NCSS I can hold.
And that's just,
And this is just K through 5.
Yeah.
right, escape them.
but the second.
But this is just the NGSS arranged by, this is one organizational system.
Yes,
There's a
it
second
is.
And
one.
what's
This is
this?
just.
It's by like straight, there's a
This
bunch of different ways you
Sorry.
can get it
And
online.
that's not
Yeah,
problematic, that's the
Right.
test that I've taken on.
That's
Right.
what I thought.
The formatting is easy.
Good.
You deciding what structure you want that formatting to take is what this body has.
The structure.
And as I said before, to me, these ones that we've been integrating, this design a musical instrument and that, those are the ones that would go up here, up at the top as the performance standards. The ones where we're gonna solve an environmental problem.
We've been talking about.
Well, no, we've actually worded some of them to be in here. We changed the glee wording on some of these to say, where's the one in earth science? Where we said we were gonna solve, describe, that one where we're gonna solve an environmental solution or whatever.
Would be what you're talking about.
That would go up here, and then the content would be all of those things that the kids had to learn to be able to have the background knowledge to do that final component. Remember we talked about in this, the last standard in the thing would be a performance standard that would force them to design or solve. That would go at the top.
So you pull that out.
And then all of these other pieces would be the part that goes down here in the content
Okay,
column
so-
that would explain.
So, if we're going to use, a format that looks like this, and there's also another format that shows it in a different way, none of that's problematic. I can make all that stuff happen. I just need to know what information gets plugged in there. Well, what I'm hearing you say is that you want to do this work and then come back and tackle 7 and 8. Is that what I'm hearing folks say?
As we do this work, I want to make sure 7 and 8 is embedded.
So you're talking about,
What do
okay,
you all think?
are you talking about going to the page by page, going through?
And rewording this, I'm talking about
How are you talking about going by things?
how does what we've done here fit into this.
That's what I'm asking you, how are you wanting to incorporate this?
I'm not
So,
sure.
okay, let me ask this, do we start with, okay, for example,
Yeah, let's
the
do it.
strand?
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay,
You
do
explain to me
we
exactly
start
what you're
with
trying to
properties
do.
and principles of motion? Can we decide on whether we're gonna have 50 million strands or?
Can we see what that would look like?
Here's the problem.
But we don't have that.
Okay.
No, but let me tell you something, here's the problem. If you go into our glees
Uh-huh.
and you look at these big ideas, you know, like on our glees, we have these big statements
Yes.
up here.
Yes.
Okay, so strand one is physical science. They're
Okay.
saying matter, they're saying that, so when you have this organization, you have strand one is physical science. Then
Right.
underneath that, they have 4 different areas that they've divided it into,
Sure.
or big ideas within that.
Okay,
Then they've got some subheadings here that are underneath those.
uh-huh.
We have to figure out how we're gonna organize these.
Hey, here's my question, is there anything, and I truly want to know, I'm asking, is there anything in there that we don't have in our GLE?
Yes,
Okay, what strand in here, or what strand off this are we missing?
I don't know all of them, but one of the big ones is waves.
Is what?
Waves.
W-A-V.
Waves and their applications and technologies for informational transfer, we have nothing
Okay.
about
That's all
waves.
middle school. The waves are in middle school.
Well, we need to,
I mean, I
we need to
still
look, because there's probably some background
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Now, we may be able to use our sound and light, but I have not
Could we
done all
get
this work, because it's a lot.
a copy or a rec, no, you
I
said
just
that
wanna know,
later.
I just wanna know
Okay.
if there's something we're missing, but if there's nothing that we're missing, I
What are
don't
you
know what's
gonna
wrong
use
with,
for these big ideas?
we already have them, I'm just curious,
There's too many.
I think that what we're missing.
7 or 6 is too many?
One
Our big
thing,
strands are 6,
one thing
right?
that we're missing is
No,
strands.
And I'm sure trying to understand what you're saying, I'm really trying to understand.
Okay, so what I'm
you're saying.
trying to say
If you're saying there's,
is that when we looked at these glees, right here, when we went through all these glees, we kept saying, I heard that somewhere else, I heard that somewhere else. I know we cover energy in this other strand, I know that we've covered this, so then I went in and I did this thing.
right,
And I made that based on the recommendations of the original glee writers, and they wrote up here a scope and sequence, and it says properties of matter. And so I went up here and put properties of matter, and then we had,
out that was properties.
and I took everything that was properties of matter, and we printed it out this way, so we know, in regards to properties of matter, this is everything throughout the entire glees that deals with that.
In kindergarten, right?
In
I'm-
kindergarten,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
These are by grade level.
right.
So we've got this system of organizing it, and then we've got this system.
What's that?
This system is the original glees, which we don't like, because we keep saying that that goes with this and this strand, or that goes with this and this strand. It's not a continuum of the concept from beginning to end.
As a classroom teacher, it makes more sense to me that you have a unit on physical science and everything that goes on.
Right.
Just as that is organized.
Right.
Or
This
how,
is more like, I think it's more like this, but I don't know 100%.
and I don't either, because I've not spent a lot of time in that.
Right.
But my question is can we decide what, for lack of a better term, what our units or focus are going to be?
So then if we did.
Then
and
let's go from
right,
there.
the reason that the Glee folks did not put it in this format is because these were suggestions. There's other ways you can arrange these to go from beginning to end of the concept. Which is, so then the question is, I don't know that this is the best method, it's a suggestion. In this case, they have gone ahead and done that for us. They said, at kindergarten, in motion, this is where the kids should end up. This is the content that they should have to go through to get here, and these are the process skills they should have to do to be able to complete this. So do we want to take this document, the Glee document, and do all of this work to figure out what the background is, what our final thing is? Or do we want to use this as a skeleton and fix this based on what we found that we want in our glees?
Okay, question, could we have Eric design that format, if we're going with that format, with blanks in it, and then tomorrow we come back and decide.
So the question is, if we do it that way, then we have to decide how we're going to organize these.
Yes.
Because they are broken down a lot more simply, more detailed than we need them to be.
They're more finite.
Because I'm not gonna tell you that this is the ideal way to organize it. It's one way to organize it.
It's a way I think teachers would use them.
This is the way I think they could use, but it's already done for us in NGSS.
I think if we work through them.
You know, I think, and I was gonna say, I think if we get an example, because I don't think it's maybe, does everybody have this document?
No.
How many?
What is it?
We got a
It's
lot of
the,
these
yeah,
copies, but maybe we just have one.
the ECI arrangements of the next generation science.
Yeah, we were here.
I mean, I have a hyperlink to it, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, okay, I know, I think you gave this to me last time. Okay, I thought that everybody did, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, if you look at NGSS, and this what's on the screen right now, is one way to organize it, and basically that is this.
Right.
That is our version of
Right.
this, or this is our version of that.
I think that's what I'm trying to say.
And so, but go back to the table of contents. Yeah, but, oh, okay, yeah, we'll come there in a minute, but go back up to the top. So if you see what's going on here, see they use the term storyline, right? So there's a kindergarten storyline, and there's only a few big ideas, but then these ideas are gonna get into specific things. She's got, instead, we got a kindergarten page, and it's got scope and sequence on it. It's the same thing.
Right, it's a storyline.
It's a storyline. Okay? Yeah, now scroll down to a page, like you were just on any random page that has meat on it. Okay, there. So it's kids. So like in this case, so it's kindergarten.
Okay.
But these are our glees, right?
So we.
This is the thing above the glee, what you call that, a big idea.
Big idea.
Right? And these are the glees.
And those are really bigger than, those are the.
No, I see our glees as a disciplinary core idea.
Those are the glees we have vamped up to include engineering or investigation. That's what's at the
But
top.
see, if you look at how this whole page is structured, yeah, you have the disciplinary core ideas. I have to look at this and remind myself, but what we're talking about is having glees and having next to each glee, like instead of the third column, here's the science and engineering practices that could go along with that.
Right.
Here's the big ideas and science that goes along with that, right? I mean, so what we could do instead is we could say, here's our glee, and just have one glee per page, let's say, and say, here's an engineering practice that goes along with that. And here's the, what's our other thing?
That's goals,
So
1
this
through
would be
4.
strand 8, and this would be strand 7.
No, cross-cutting concepts are the goals.
Whatever, I'm just saying,
yes.
for our page that looks sort of like this, but that's inspired by this, could be the glees up here, we could have.
Not all the glees.
No,
One-
he's saying specific.
Some glee,
Right.
pick some
Well,
glee.
it's confusing if you say all the glees go up there, because there's 35 of them for kindergarten, and that's way too many to have up there.
Okay, granted, but
Yes.
all I'm just saying is the way we could organize it is such that a glee is here, a strand 8 idea is here, and a strand 7 idea is there. And everything connects to they're all harmonious.
And what is it not?
And you could even put in academic vocabulary. If you
And in the
want to
middle
do a
would be
reference
the
to
glees that
glossary.
are not up top. Are you with me?
I think that's.
In the middle,
I haven't thought that far.
The one up top would be the one over here.
What I hear Ann saying is the top is the performance
That's
glee.
it.
The core is your content.
Where your head
There's
is.
catalog,
People
yes.
know what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm with you.
I'm trying very
Oh,
hard.
I know you are. I
I feel
get
like you
it.
feel
I
like I'm
totally
getting money,
get
and I'm
it.
really not. I truly am trying to understand what you're saying.
That's
Because
why
I do not have any interest at all in.
At the top is the big
Fully
picture
hard.
in gold.
Right, it's like the one, you know, we've looked at.
I
Let's
get it.
take one.
Yeah,
Let's take one. Let's take one. Let's take a green.
Okay, hang on, I gotta find a good.
Pick a green. We gotta find out where it lives.
I
Okay,
thought she had it on.
fifth grade, okay, so this is strand one, big idea one, capital C, fifth grade, develop a model showing how changes in state.
Wait. Say strand one,
Strand one,
big idea one,
big idea one,
what capital?
capital C,
Capital C. Oh,
fifth grade,
Got it.
little a.
Little A, good.
Hold on.
Yeah, can you read what those are for
Uh,
Strand one, big idea one. You want me to read strand one?
Well,
Properties and principles of matter and
You
energy.
just get it out. So, big idea one.
Changing properties and states of matter provide evidence of the atomic theory of matter.
Okay, one,
One on C, capital C.
okay, I'm there.
Oh, I'm on C.
And, fifth grade,
Fifth grade
Yes.
A. Little lowercase.
got it.
So develop a model showing how changes in state, freezing, melting, condensation, evaporation provide evidence that matter is made up of particles too small to be seen. So that would be what's at the top of the page. Then if we come over here, and it's,
What is it, what do we call it, C? So.
I think
there's
concept.
strand-
okay, I chose the bad one,
Concept.
Concept?
I think concept.
because this one is the beginning one.
Well, let's find one where we thought that we could put engineering in,
Okay.
right? Because that was sort of.
I have an idea. Let's find that tonight. Let's just wrap this up.
Well, no, then I think if we just get one example in front of us, then
And
most
then
people have an idea.
Okay, I got
Make
one.
it think of it.
I think that might help, because it's
Energy.
kind of process.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need processing.
That's why, yeah, but if we're all on the same page, that's.
Okay, investigate and explain
Where are you?
right.
Where are you? And where are you?
Okay, hang on, I'm gonna find it. Nope, not a good one, sorry, so.
Found this.
I don't want to go into
Okay, second.
I don't think the box I should decide.
Well, Harry doesn't.
I don't know, you guys got that last week
And made it.
on Friday.
It's on Google.
Also, I realized
I'll tell you what,
She
how about the weather one? Strand five,
Where are you?
Strand five, big idea two,
Working on it.
capital F,
But the one
Concept
you
F.
can update.
Right, that I don't need,
Right, because it's not right.
but you may need these next generation.
Yeah, it's definitely
Strand
talk about.
five, big idea
okay,
two,
this, I think this is a good one to go.
capital
Strand
F.
five, big idea two,
Mm-hmm.
strand five, big idea two, capital F for concept F, grade five, and then I don't know whether it's A or B, but. So let's say A, I guess, right?
Yes,
And then five years of
Or in fact, A and B.
right, together would
So
be
A
at top.
and B go together and they're at the top, and they basically.
So that's right here on this scope and sequence one.
We're down that far. Okay,
Yes.
so we got identify and use appropriate tools like thermometers to collect weather data. And B is about trying to find relationships and maybe patterns, I
Yeah,
forget, right?
yeah.
So that's that top row, right?
That's exactly what I did when I was doing the other thing.
Three.
Yeah, you're gonna get all
There
of
we
these.
go. There's our-
No, 'cause you didn't
I
pull
stopped
them,
because we were gonna do
Harry,
that.
you didn't pull them other strands.
No, I had not gone there at all yet.
No, he hasn't gotten there, but he
No,
started out
that's
with the big
exactly what I started to do. So we can add a band in where we want, we can add the top in for our two things.
Yes, I thought she did. Oh, God, no. Here.
So it's like that.
Good, thanks.
There's some in that.
Thanks. Does everybody have all those?
So then all of these things would be in that middle
The middle
part.
section, that's what I'm thinking.
Right,
We'll go right down the middle
Right.
section and then
Okay.
you have all your teachable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we were going out on our strand, our third
These-
column.
right here would go in this column over here, this called cross-cutting
Okay,
ideas.
oh, okay.
Because these are our process standards. And then 7 and 8 should be in that science and engineering practices.
But I think
Oh, I
we
see.
need
So
to
you're
use
saying
the
7
term
and 8 together
process
here.
students because.
And this is the.
No, the middle part is the rest of the content
No.
lead that we
You said
have.
exactly what I felt.
Oh,
middle
the storyline.
part.
The storyline.
You think you can draw up what you're asking for this? Just keep trying to get it drawn up tonight, and then we come in the morning, we can sit down
Start
there,
plugging in.
and we can, well, we can try to construct this, because we have 6 minutes.
What I'm trying to do, I want to help, I want to do this too.
That's what I'm saying, what I'm saying is just to get this intersection, or to get a template that she's thinking about, and then we can hash this in an hour, hopefully tomorrow morning,
Right.
and then maybe we can work it out and start actually trying to build something, see how it works.
But I just wanted to see a specific example, and I wanted everybody to see it, because I think everybody can have good ideas about it. Right? That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm
Right?
sorry, sir.
And it's only gonna take 5 more minutes.
Yeah, we're almost there.
We're almost there. So it's just, we have the idea that up top, maybe, for instance, we have 2, and here we have those 2 leads that we just talked about, A and B from 5th grade. They might be up there. That's one thought.
Okay, I'm just curious, and again, I'm trying to understand what you're doing.
Okay.
Why are we we're selecting just 2 off of that whole,
We just picked one around.
Because
And you're-
those 2 are the culminating concept of that
They're the
whole
final-
strand.
Before you
That's
get
the
to be
most
able to know and
complex,
be able to
and
get
it's
it
the
right.
one that that we can tie
And I picked it because,
processing to.
right, because there was an engineering part that could go along with it.
so I'm just trying to figure out where and how we're picking this.
We said we wanted performance standards.
No, I know, we want to add all that to it.
And so we were choosing which one blends itself the best in this row to a performance standard,
I'm just trying to figure out where
to
we're
creating
getting
a
what we're
performance
getting.
standard.
And see, he's already organizing it like that.
You can pull and drag it pretty quick and easy
Yeah.
into that Word document.
Yeah, that's
Like I said, this is exactly what I looked at earlier.
Oh, yeah, I think that's what we're doing. We're taking what you started and we're putting this.
No, that's, yeah.
You're really developing the template kind of now.
That's,
okay.
It's very much like that.
Well, I guess, so what I'm thinking is, like I said, so we've got information up top, right? And it could be the actual individual leads like this. And then we have all these different columns. Again, that's the way that the NGSS is organized, right? So we could have, for instance, what goes along with this as far as engineering is concerned is making those little gizmos, right? Making a thermometer, making a simple
and
thermometer.
I need to ask on those are suggested strands
Yes.
as you're going down on the next generation?
No,
Or they are the required?
That's what the writers decided, that science and engineering practice should go along with that concept, or that belief.
Okay, my question is this, we put it into this format. And someone goes to write an assessment off of that. What piece are they gonna use from that format to write that standard? Are they gonna, do you see where I'm coming?
Yeah, that's a
They
good question.
better use the top one.
But that has
I
to be
think we
clear,
think that's fair game.
that's my question.
Well, honestly, if they can do the top one.
They should be able to do
They
everything
can do any
underneath.
of that.
Okay,
Because the top one should be a culmination of everything that you've done.
gotcha.
And if they know how to do that, they'll know all the content that you would ask the multiple choice question about. Okay.
And see, in this case, the strand 7, the science process that can go along with this is either observe, right, because that's one, like strand number, observe, and the other one would be find
But
patterns.
there's no recommendation, I think we have to say in that first column, these are the strand 7 and 8 standards that are embedded within.
That are
those.
embedded, that's right, and that's what I'm saying,
And
observe
right.
and find patterns. Those
Right.
are, right?
So those 3 boxes underneath are not suggestions, that is what is
That's what-
included in that.
It's what
Now, if we
correlates.
wanna do another box underneath with teaching
Yeah.
ideas.
Yes,
we
teaching
can
ideas.
And now
do
it's our
that.
column 3, yeah, that's right. That's interesting.
Now we're calling it the bottom box.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's the same.
concept.
Right.
We just changed his location.
Just
So,
the teacher
That's
was
actually, I think,
doing
what we
so
were
much
looking at
work.
earlier, that's what's.
Well, it
alright,
has
so
to-
the question is, what did you say goes in this first box of these three?
Was that 3 and 7?
Well, I
No,
think
no,
that's,
no.
7 and 8.
that was still talking about.
Yeah,
So put it down for now.
the engineering piece or
Yeah.
the inquiry piece.
Right.
Alright, so strike 7 and
The
8 go in that one.
technology piece, what goes in the middle?
What goes in the middle?
The actual
The
glees
actual
that
glees.
we
Background please, call them background
Back-
please.
backgrounds.
What do you mean background?
They're the ones that you had to learn in
Build up
order to
to
get to
the
the
final
point, so they're these previous ones that you
Oh,
learned.
okay.
To get to
Okay.
the
feedings.
They're the building blocks.
Okay.
They're the building blocks.
Okay.
All those times when we said, you'll build on that later, or you'll get
Right.
to that later.
And then what goes in this third column?
Background
So like,
maybe.
No,
No, they're from kindergarten. What's that? They're from whatever
Right.
grade they're in.
And so what goes in this third column?
The 4 goals, performance
the
standards.
performance or the process standard.
Process standards.
Process standard.
Sorry.
So question, when you put those back.
No, they're called
Other
performance standards.
performance, okay.
It's performance. 'cause
This
that's
is
what-
process on the other side, right?
You know,
Got it.
So
I
these
call them
are-
process
It's a
standards.
P word.
So these are performance.
These are performance,
These are the
performance.
4 goals on the back of your placemat are performance standards.
And so then there would be one big column underneath that's the performance.
For teaching suggestions.
question is, background glees, are we going to define at what grade level?
We can't
They'll
make,
only be the grade level
That
that's
We're gonna do
for
it.
that grade level.
Okay.
So
So
that's
they'll
okay.
only be the ones
I
that are
missed
here.
that piece.
They would only be the ones that are here.
Cause I was starting to get a little panicked,
Yeah.
because then the
They won't
decision
be
comes,
all
well,
of
which
them.
part do I teach?
no, no, no.
Don't take that away from them, because that was something very good that
Alright,
you saw.
what else
My
goes in here after
anxiety.
teaching
I
science?
think that's it.
If we wanted to do alignment to English and numeracy, literacy and numeracy, we could eventually.
But we
Even
don't even know what
even
they're
mathematics.
talking about.
Yeah, we don't even know what those
No,
standards
I'm
are.
saying if
Yeah.
we wanted
Down the
to,
road,
we could do
Because that's
it
what it is.
eventually.
Yeah, because it should be a working document. If you had time.
They've already done it for us, so.
But this is, yeah. I have a question.
It's already been done.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that formula.
I like that.
Siri.
Guys, can I say
You
that?
know,
I
you know, that's-
really like it.
I really like
Now, how
I
do you-
I like this.
It's a little too late to ask for permission. isn't
Oh,
it?
to me, it's all encompassing. I have the whole idea of what it is. It's a big picture, plus the pieces that I need in order to get to the big picture.
And
Oh
I
my
think,
gosh.
I think that in describing the things that are going to be in the column in the middle,
Yeah.
I think that more it seems to me that that would be appropriate to use more bullet points rather than standing sentences, and I don't know about anybody else, but I think people need bullet points.
Okay, so my question was
Yeah.
back
I'm
to
saying not necessarily the
How is
keys,
this-
just sort of a.
how is this like a story to what you
Actually,
had in your head?
are more
This would
bullet
be-
like than
Yes.
Is this,
Yeah, it's
It's
is this
wordy.
going along with
Our
the guidelines that
GFS
you're,
is more wordy.
I mean, you want to be clear.
You seem
so
very
that
strong
people
about it. I wanna make
know
sure
what they need to do,
I
but at the same
still-
time, when you give them a lot of.
We're
I'm
gonna go-
still
we're gonna
feeling
have to go through.
strong about NGSS because I cannot say that this document is important.
isn't important?
Is not important.
Oh,
These
everyone
are
is.
the national standards, and when we do documents, when we do state documents, they need to be aligned with the national standards.
Or better.
Or better than the national standards, and I don't know that we've touched everything.
So what we're gonna have to do, if we go through with this,
We're
we're gonna go through and we're gonna have to highlight
Right,
Yeah.
everything that we've done
right.
through the national standard. And then obviously, once it's highlighted, we can say, okay, this isn't highlighted, where do we address it?
Right.
Or do we?
So, or do we want
And
to?
I'm
I think
okay
that's
if we
actually- I
don't
think
address
that's-
everything. I'm
I think
okay if
that's
we
very
don't, but I
doable.
feel like we have to.
Once we have this
do it.
Well,
document
because
done,
I know there are.
I think that's,
Or, right.
Right, we have to see where the holes are,
That's right.
regardless.
Yeah.
We have to see where
This
the
is an
gaps are.
important document that should not go by the wayside.
Which document?
The
Yeah.
NGSS
Even if we're not adopting
needs to
it,
be,
I mean, I can tell you,
we need to
blank.
look at it.
it is what is being used in my son's elementary
We
school.
have to look at it.
But there are several schools that have selected it at this point because it's the only alternative to Common Core to 12 people.
Well,
No, because this has nothing to do with Common
Yeah.
Core.
Well, it's they're written by the same people.
No, it's not
no,
written by the same people.
And that's.
Carrie, I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you that it could be the same company that published it, but the next generation science standards was not written by the
Who
same
wrote it?
people as Common
Who
Core.
wrote it?
There is an entire chapter
It's
dedicated to all the people.
Like national.
National people, they have school
State
teachers,
represented.
teachers from Missouri.
Who suggested, like the Common Core I was told came from the governor.
This came from the science.
The national,
just like you have a national academy, the national, that's that, ACTM.
National Academy of Science.
Not the
Yeah.
national.
This has nothing to do with federal. Federal didn't
Right.
start this
That's
initiative.
fundamentally
It's independently started.
But I think-
Let's say it's driven by anyone you want, but it's driven
Everybody
by
from the nation.
textbook companies. It's driven by, they're the ones that fund
You know what, Harry?
all of the.
No, I will not agree with you on that, and you're gonna have to show me
Okay,
some evidence.
We don't have to go into,
Right.
you know, all
If you
the
look at it,
tinfoil hat decision ideas about it. You've got this. What about this, is incomplete? Because this gives me something to go and play with.
That looks good. I think that looks good.
I think this is exactly what, and that's why I'm asking Anna to make sure that she's comfortable with this, because this is, I think, is exactly what we talked about we were gonna do. And then we'll go back in and find what we're missing.
Yeah.
You know what, I think
My only
we're on the same page.
My only concern will be figuring out how to tag these strands and these things so that people, if they do want to cross-reference it, can cross-reference it to that.
Cross-reference to what?
To the
Like a secondary
next generation.
to the elementary.
He's got to,
Right.
even put it in there.
That's exactly, that's the only thing I think that would,
I'm sure.
I think that if we did that, that would appease,
This is the part that I'm struggling with.
but that's,
If we use,
I'm gonna stop recording, if that's okay? Is everybody?
yeah, we're done with it.
if we use, we can't use the